Welcome back. This is episode 102. Today's guest is Joel Garcia. He's a martial artist originally from Venezuela, as well as an aspiring actor. Now, today, as I release this, is November 11th, 2021, which is Canada's Remembrance Day to remember the fallen soldiers in the Great War, World War I and World War II, as well as all of the wars. Now, I'm releasing this episode unintentionally today. It just so happened. But I think it's an interesting episode to release on this day because Joel is from Venezuela, if it wasn't clear. And if you didn't know, Venezuela is a very much failed state. And they don't really have freedom there. And forgetting the importance of freedom is something that is increasing these days as people have been far too comfortable and don't understand the importance of it and are increasingly giving up the freedoms that they have that were fought for by the fallen soldiers. Often the politics gets into it. It doesn't really matter if people were sent to war for the right reason, but people died believing in an idea that is freedom, even if they were misled in some cases. Now, in the case of World War I and II, or specifically more World War II, that really wasn't the case. Those seemed very necessary to protect the rights and freedoms of people. And though Joel doesn't go into too much detail, I think it's important to listen to what he says about his experience getting out of Venezuela and why it's important to respect democracy and freedom. And don't throw it under the bus and forget about it, particularly on a day like today, November 11th, as we remember the fallen who fought for our freedoms. But before I go more into it, here is a little clip of something that Joel said that resonated with me. Now, we talked a little bit, all over the place on a variety of topics, but I think this is a very poignant point to make, especially today. It's with regards to immigrating alone, life, the company of others, and yourself. So give it a listen.
You truly have to create your own family, different. You get used to people coming and going, so that you have to really find a way to not depend on people coming and going. That it allows me to be completely okay with being alone. We're social creatures. We need people. But I think that everybody should be able to understand and know what's like to be alone. If we don't appreciate our own company, how are you gonna enjoy fully somebody's? Because otherwise it becomes codependent. It's one thing when I want to be with you because I like your company. Another one when I want to be with you because I'm so scared of not having somebody to talk to. It's different approaches. And I feel like a lot of us are still into that type of mind.
Words to ponder, and as you listen to this episode, you will see that Joel is very deep in trying to be spiritual and connecting with ourselves, and I think those words are important today because people were so terrified of being alone and by themselves as the social creatures we are that we've allowed some craziness to happen. But before we get into this podcast is brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions since 2013. Like many, we had a fun time during the last few years, and there are many ways you can support this podcast or Urban Tactics in general. You can, of course, for free, follow us on Urban Tactics Krav Maga on Instagram, Urban Tactics KM on Twitter, Urban Tactics Krav Maga on Facebook. You can, of course, train with us in person. You can go to urbantacticskm.com and you can check out our training schedule and sign up for a free trial class if you're in the Metro Vancouver area. If you're unable to train with us in person, you can, of course, check out our curriculum on www.utkmu.com. There I have my beginner and novice curriculum up, whether it's just supplementary for your current Krav Maga training, whether you're looking to figure out how to structure a program, or you just want some different approach or new ideas, check out utkmu.com. Go subscribe for a month or for a year to any of those programs, and you can watch videos of me trying to teach you some Krav Maga, so check it out. You can, of course, if you're in the Metro Vancouver area and you want to get your firearms license, go back to that other website, Urban Tactics KM, and you can sign up for your Canadian firearms license, which is required for things like your Krav Maga, Green Belt from UTCAM specifically, or job requirements, or just simply education on firearms safety and laws. You do not need to be a Canadian citizen, though that makes the paperwork a little harder. So you can check it out. I have courses upcoming over the next few months and continuously in Burnaby and Surrey. I think that is it. I usually forget something. But, oh yeah, the blog, of course, utcamblog.com, where I put out most weeks a series of blogs on a variety of topics: self-defense for the mind, self-defense concepts, self-defense ideas. Sometimes it's other people even deciding to help write blog posts, whether it be students or instructors. Remember, for any of those who send us a blog post related to self-defense for the mind, mental health, or self-defense experiences, you will get 3 months free of UTKMU. You can send any submissions to info@urbantacticscanada.com, and we'll take a look, 500 words or more. We do have an editor. If we do end up publishing, again, you will get 3 months of UTKMU to study. So again, Joel is a martial artist who I originally met working for another gym, and as I mentioned, I met him coincidentally in the movie industry, which I am currently taking a break from. If you want to check out Joel, you can check him out on Instagram, Joel G MMA, JOELGMMA. That's on Instagram. And if you want to train and learn from this gentle giant, he's very tall, www.alchemymma369.com. Alchemy is ALCHEMY, MMA369.com. Checking him out in the Metro Vancouver area if you want to train with him. And again, this episode, we go all over the place philosophically, what's going on in the world, and his experience as an immigrant leaving Venezuela on a volleyball sports, what do they call them? Thingies, you'll see in the podcast. So it's a really interesting, deep conversation. Enjoy. Krav Maga is not just a self-defense system. It is a way of life. Warriors Den is a podcast for Kravists, fighters, martial artists, warriors, politicians, and general citizens. Consider this. The society that separates scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools. Lucidity. Your host, Jonathan Fader, talks to guests in an open and uncensored format about their fights, their philosophies, and their lives. No topic is taboo, and the conversation may start in one place and end in another. As the quote suggests, you cannot separate the warrior from the politics and the world around them, as a true warrior must be a student in all forms of art and science.
You're listening to The Warrior's Day. Brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions.
Welcome back. I am here with Joel Garcia, martial artist that I originally met working for another gym and then bumped into him again doing extra work for the movie industry. Where you're still trying to do your thing. But before we get into that, how'd you get into martial arts? What's your journey?
It was a long time ago, because I think some people start martial arts right away they go to a gym and they start the journey right there. And some people like myself get pre-introduced to martial arts just like in movies or my own living experiences, fighting on the streets, things like that. That's what happened to me. Very little. I did a bit of karate, probably like for a month, and then I stopped. Later on, I started practicing volleyball. So volleyball was a big part of my life for a long time.
What age?
I started volleyball when I was 11, 12 years old. And then that was what I did for until I was like 24, 25, something like that.
Because you can't see, he's very tall. He can just spike the ball over the net.
No, it's funny because quote unquote tall, but when you play a national team, you're a midget.
How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4". I'm 5'6", so you're taller than me.
So so that was pretty much what I was doing. But even when I was focused on other areas, I was always still kind of like evaluating what martial art was all about, especially when you saw the first time Royce Gracie on the UFC, the old times, movies that you would see. So martial art was always with me.
Yeah. And because when I first met you, we were doing no-gi a lot, and you're pretty good. So where'd your grappling journey?
As I say, Jiu-Jitsu, I was taught clinch.
Clinch.
Clinch with Sal. And
Sal Ram,
Yeah, he's a great guy. I owe him so much. A lot of respect for him and his family.
When did you start training there?
I started with him 2013 and I would say. But before I was at for a bit at Universal. Well, I used to be Universal in downtown. I used to do pretty much kickboxing. Started a bit of grappling, but mainly with Sal. I started the Jiu-Jitsu journey, but before Sal, again, I was always studying what I'm seeing. I don't wait for people to teach me. I just simply do it myself. And
When you say that, it's like studying on the movies, or cause how old are you now?
I'm 34.
34. Mine the same age. Yeah. So it's a little late from like the old like 70s, 80s like martial arts guys. A lot of guys that are older are like, I grew up watching that Bruce Lee and stuff. So we're a little too young for that. So where were you getting resources before YouTube? Because now you can get it on YouTube.
I think a lot of time was very intuitive, to be honest. I'm a guy who is, I look at people walking. Yeah. I evaluate movement. I like to pay attention to what parts of my body feels more weakened than others, and what would I do if I neutralize them in combat. Yeah. So just myself, obviously you learn more with different perspectives, people teaching you different angles, but I'm always critically thinking what I have in front of me. And since I'm very obsessed with movement, Jiu-Jitsu was always something that I've been always wanting to explore in a way that I can neutralize people without having to use so much force. Yeah. So,
Now, the needing to sort of learn to survive comes from the fact you're from what country?
Oh my God, Venezuela, papi, Venezuela. Yeah.
When did you leave? What year?
Venezuela, I left 2006. That was probably, I'm sure that was the best thing that
could have been 19. I can do it easily.
Yeah. No, I'm like, like 19, probably 19, I'm sure. Or 19.
Because I was about 19 that year. So.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of people hear about Venezuela, but they don't really hear about Venezuela. So,
it's one thing what you see in the mainstream and where you actually have experience there. When Venezuela, that experience, it was bad, but not like what we have right now. Right now, it's like...
It's gone worse.
No, not worse. That's like gone. Oh. That's like, no, that's not even a level. That's like that's like free for all.
You fell off a cliff is what you're saying.
Right. That's like survival mode, you know.
So how was it like when you grew up there, if it was bad?
It was bad, bad. I'm talking about criminality has always been around. It's just standard. You know that you might go outside, you might not come back. Yeah. You know that growing up, you have to fight. Yeah. You know that you have to find your ways to overcome people threatening at you, and it's just a norm. That's survival. But there was still food. It was still whatever to work. There was still some normal, quote unquote, normal type of life. We had a lot of tourist people visiting us. There was still great people. When I started to turn probably 14, 15, that was more into I was getting more serious into volleyball. That's when I started noticing Venezuelans hating each other. Yeah. I'm still a kid, 14, 13 years old, but I still, in every gathering, I would just see Venezuela. But you left. You voted for him. I'm like, wait. Yeah. What the fuck is happening here? Like, the same families are attacking each other, and I would notice neighbors, family members stop talking to each other over political things. That's when I knew there was something that I never seen before, because I understand people fight within their family members because of family reasons,
Yeah.
but not because of the guy who voted. Like, to me, it became like a fanatic, like a religion, you know?
Yeah, and because a lot of people might not know, like, so if you listen to right-wing media, they'd be like, Venezuela's a socialist hellhole, and then if you listen to left-wing, they'll be like, no, Venezuela's socialist is great. So maybe give a little background.
Yeah, so we have to go way back in I would say 1998. That was when Hugo Chavez, he won. We have to give Chavez the credit that he was an amazing speaker.
Like so was Hitler, right?
Oh my God, that guy could convince you to do anything. He had like this charisma. He talked, and I was on the street. I was homeless. He was in the military. He's like, oh, this is a guy who's gonna help us to get out of here. He got all power. Yeah. By 2001, 2002, this guy was a different guy.
Yeah. Now, once he got the power.
And everybody surrounded him. That's why we didn't know if the people around him changed him or he was just a whole acting the whole time. It's hard to act that way because you could, at the beginning when he started being a candidate, you could see his charisma. Like, it's one thing, you can have a script, but when you have lived from experience, you can see when somebody is actually speaking. You don't know what it's like to be poor, to be on the bottom, to go through a lot of hardship. But again, people change, and within 3-4 years, he won the power. He was a different guy. And then you saw the government was started to take business away from people, properties, and they're like, what's happening? He was like the government, if the government thought that was something that they should have, it was just starting to take over everything. That's when, and Chavez at that time, he had a lot of support, including my family members. They were like, oh, we want to support everybody. But after he did that, that's when everything changed, and that's what the division between Venezuelans started to happen more and more. And that was when I knew that, my heart was always telling me, you have to get the fuck out. You have to get out as soon as possible. And
that's what I was telling my wife, like, and a lot of Jews get very angry for my stances. And I think they're being naive because I said, so there's the normalcy bias. You're familiar with it? So basically, everything was fine yesterday. Everything's fine today. Everything will be fine tomorrow. And when I teach for my regular listeners and my students, like, I integrate politics to a degree into my teaching. And people say, well, I'm not here to learn that. I'm saying, but you are. You're here to learn self-defense. And part of self-defense is being aware of what's going on in society and looking at things. Because if you were a Jew growing up right after Hitler got into power, initially you're probably like, okay, whatever. And then you start to see, like, what they're doing. And you hear, well, not too many because a lot of people were murdered, obviously, but a lot of stories of survivors who got their families out before. And they're like, listen, all my family was like, you're nuts. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, if you left before Kristallnacht, I forgot the date, where they started going after all the Jewish businesses violently, you were definitely considered a little crazy. What I don't understand is why people stayed after Kristallnacht. And then I forgot who it was. There's a very famous investor in the U.S., very wealthy, but he was telling the story of his father who got out on the last few trains out. He went out, explored, came back, got his immediate family, and tried to get everyone else to leave. They're like, no, you're crazy, you're crazy, crazy. Left. Right a week or so after they left, border closed. And that was it. And people don't think like that. Like, society can't collapse, or my country can never fail.
That's sort of the old saying that when we tend to forget our past or history, we repeat the same mistakes over and over. And that, to me, is the main problem in our current society, is that our capacity to remember is almost non-existent. Like, if you see the mainstream, like, we pay attention to something today, 2 days later it's a completely different story. We completely get wiped out from what we remember last week. Yeah. And you can even, it's such a...
You can watch it with people, right?
It's unbelievable. It's blue, yellow, orange, and you were like changing all the time. It's nothing consistent. Yeah. And that's why when you talk about the history, the same history, it's nothing new. It's the same thing. We see that everything happened because people we cannot recognize the same patterns, the same things being implemented in us, forced upon us. So we just follow blindly.
Just do it. It's easy.
Yeah, keep doing. Go left and right. Sit down right here.
So was there like a final straw for you that you're like, I need to get out of the country?
Like
just the last sort of like
the last one was the prices of things. Oh my!
Inflation.
No, right away.
Hyperinflation.
You could no. It was like a ketchup. Ketchup. I don't know. An example. A ketchup costs you $3. Within days, it would be 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Within days.
Yeah.
Especially the tuition for schooling or prices of flight tickets. That's when I knew them. Like, what type of future am I going to have if you're barely surviving? Yeah. And that's why I knew that,
Were you the only one for your family left, or did you convince?
At that time, yes.
Yeah.
Because of volleyball.
Yeah.
I think I've been blessed with volleyball for, I think that without volleyball, no fucking way I would have been able to get out at that time.
Yeah. Was it like just a scholarship?
A scholarship. My whole life I was always through the scholarships. I was able to get out. Yeah. That's why I never thought I was gonna
through sport.
Yeah, 100%. For me, if I didn't do that, like, how do I do it?
That's it's fascinating you say that, because like there was just in the Olympics with the Belarus Olympic athlete that it's like, I'm not going back. No, I'm not going back. And she literally did the Olympics just to get out of the country.
I did that indirectly.
Yeah.
I knew it, especially after many years when I had to go back. I went through a lot of immigration problems just because of that too,
In what sense?
No, in the sense of like I would, in 2010, 2011, I would tell people this type of things and they're like, no, that's not that way. Yeah. No way it's happening. I'm like, look at Venezuela now.
Yeah.
Because there was no evidence. Yeah. There was no video.
Yeah.
It was just my voice. Yeah. And how can I prove that? It was tough.
Because how would a Venezuelan from Venezuela know anything about Venezuela?
No, what would you know about it? No way. I'm like...
Yeah. It's funny, like in America, they'll be like, oh, Latinos vote left. I'm like, talk to a Cuban. That's why Florida went hard right. Yeah. Like all the Cubans, all the people from those countries are like, I'm not voting left. No way.
And especially that's funny too that you find a lot of people from obviously outside Venezuela. You guys chose that. You guys put those leaders in power. I'm like, yes, we did in the beginning, but afterwards
couldn't get rid of them.
No, the police, the military, everybody was just, oh, you don't want to vote for me? Oh, you don't? Okay.
Yeah. That's my one sort of saving hope in Canada. Not that we're anywhere like that yet, but the police are like, no, we're not doing that so far. So it's like, that's where I'm like, well, at least we got that they can only enforce so much here because the police and military are like, nope, we're not doing that.
I truly believe in good police. I believe in good army because they exist. They truly exist. Yeah. But, we have to understand their situation too. But I believe in humanity, and that's the last thing I want to lose faith on those people.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, indeed. Well, time will tell. So you're saying, so you got out, and at the time your family wasn't convinced. Did they change their mind, or
no, they have never.
Or are they still there?
No. My dad. Well, it's a long story, but my mom pretty much trapped, and my dad, because of the job he started doing, he was pretty much the only guy defending human rights at that time, and he just stayed.
He's a lawyer.
Yeah, he's a lawyer, human rights, and a professor too. And during that time, you can imagine the amount of threats and the amount of things. So has been hardcore. That's why I really hope that, sooner or later I can help them to get out of that. But it's just very tough right now.
Yeah. Refugee status in Canada only applies to the countries that are politically convenient, right? Or money, right?
Yes.
So since you came to Canada, 2006, what have you been doing other than martial arts?
Went to school and did all type of jobs. You name them.
Yeah. From
painting, construction, hustling as much as I could.
Yeah. That seems to be the story. Come do whatever you can if you're figure it out.
An honest job. I'm it's job is a job. I'm never been the type of person, I cannot do that. Job is a job. As long as I'm being honest to myself and having integrity, there is no nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like I was talking to a previous guest. He came here 19 from Hungary. He's like, he told me what he was making in, like, I don't know, the 70s, 80s. It was like nothing. It's like, hey, but it was another immigrant gave him a job, you know, but he's like, he worked his way up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So now, you know, things are doing pretty good for you now. You got a family.
Much better, obviously. That's exactly why it's so easy for me to look back and not see as a victim, because there is always a big blessing waiting for us, and especially now, you know, just having my first son, and that has been a huge blessing, huge life transformation that I'm very grateful for.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's you know, that's what I tell people is like, you know, I'm never been like huge family guy, but I'm like, the more I get older, there's actually a saying I've mentioned, I think it's Naval Ramakant, but I can't remember. He's like, eventually, you know, when you're educated and intelligent, you come to the conclusion that you either need to find God or have kids. And some people find both, some people want, because in that search for like existential meaning, you'll find one or the other. And nowadays you're finding the educated people don't want kids, or they're being terrified through anxiety and other means not to have. The world is so horrible. It's like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how that goes one of two ways.
Yeah, but I think that when we have kids, you know, I truly believe that kids they become a reflection of us in some way or form. And, you know, having a kid is truly an experience that we cannot run away from our problems. You have to face it. Yeah. So that's something that scares a lot of people, and I understand. But to me, you know, having a child, of course, requires a lot of responsibilities, a lot of sacrifices. But when I think about the long term, it's like a legacy that I wanna chase, I wanna build. It's not tangible, but it's a spiritual, fulfilling journey.
Yeah. That's an interesting way of putting it, like a responsibility you can't run away from. I mean, obviously you can, lots of people do it, but if you want to do it right, you have to say, I have this responsibility for X amount of years, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is, forever, in your heart forever. And that forces you to deal with the hard stuff that you don't want to. It's like, for example, marriage, you know, the divorce rate's so hard. One, because it used to be not allowed, which is not great for the bad relationships, but people used to have to work through it, right? So, for example, I was telling you before, like with my wife, we were stuck in a one-room apartment during COVID and lockdown, and it's like, you cannot get away from this person, and we were just forced to work through our stuff. It's still working on it because it's a long process, but it just like that probably brought us closer together. And I know other people, it split them apart. You saw either people getting married or people breaking up, like en masse. But with that kid, if you want to do it right, you have to like, this is my responsibility. I'm stuck. Let's figure this out. But, you know, our society, it's potentially because of social media and other factors. It's like, I can just run away. You don't have to commit. I don't need to fix anything. It's just me. Like,
no. I believe in consciousness, in the sense of no matter how much we try to run away from things, sooner or later that voice in our heads is gonna eat us alive. Yeah. That's why, you know, I'd rather face it. But yeah, like you're saying, I think that's a very huge topic. I was in the last 2 years. There are many layers to what's happening right now, but if there's one layer that we all can agree with, is that after COVID, we were forced to change the way we live life. Yeah. Some of us more drastic than others, but all of us were forced to evaluate what the fuck are we doing. Especially like you're saying, once you're stuck at home with somebody, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna watch TV. No. It's 24/7 there. Like, oh wow, I've been married to this person, or I've been with fuck, I didn't know, and that you gotta face it. Yeah. Or many people, you know, they're like, wow, I couldn't believe that I never paid you attention. Yeah. I was just working all the time. So you see the amount of or even kids that were all day in school doing things that they had no idea who their parents were. So see how that's, to me, the main outcome, good positive outcome that I see with COVID. Yeah. But yeah, in other aspects, a lot of people have been realizing that sometimes you need to take a different path, just because of it's part of self-love, you know. So it depends on the journey of every person. Yeah. But I think that no matter what, it has been working for humanity just because we have been such a robotic beings. So robotic, it's so go, make money, social media, video. It's just nothing human.
Yeah.
We have no interactions.
It's funny, like, because I've heard parents complain, like, crap, I need to be around my kid all day. Like, they've gotten the system has been set up in a way where parents haven't been parenting that much over the last 30, 40 years. It's like gone. Super. And all of a sudden they're forced, they have to parent their children. All of a sudden they're like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Like, how do I handle? I can't handle.
Do you want to
this.
have an iPad? You want to play video games?
I'll tie you to a chain and you go play outside.
You want pizza for tonight? I'm like,
and it's just like, it shows you that it's almost as if people had lost the ability to parent. We were building it up and then they just lost it and they don't know how to get it back.
Even when we see our ancestors, like, what did they do? They didn't have internet, TV.
Yeah.
These people were just cooking, gathering, talking for hours, playing together, going outside. We have nothing of that. Yeah. So that's just it's not that we don't know how to do. We just simply don't pay attention how our ancestors used to live. And that's why, to me, when you evaluate the native teachings, the ancient times, those are true teachings that could potentially change our whole humanity. But we suppress them thinking the new technology or the new thing is a better way to live life, when in fact that's just a distraction that disconnects us from our human essence.
It's funny with all the politics. Like, I've seeing news headlines, if you want to call them that. I'd hardly call it news. Saying, if you notice your friend who wants to go out in nature more and be one with that, they might be a white supremacist. And I was like, are you out of your minds? Like, it's just, I read that headline. I'm like, this is sick. Because, before you'd be like, oh, they're a hippie, and now you're calling them white supremacists. And all it is the system, whatever you want to call the system, ostracizing people who are trying to kind of remove themselves, whether they be left-wing hippies or right-wing douchebags, whatever. If they want to go out and find nature and remove themselves from, the rat race, as they often call it, the system and the media has always been demonizing those groups who just simply want to, like, listen, I want to slow my life down. Like, I started hunting a few years ago, and now we look forward to just going out away from everything for a couple weeks. And it changed everything. We realized, hey, if you get up with sunrise and sunset, it's like, we're not the best at it, but you feel better when you get more in tune with your natural rhythms, right? And growing up, I'd be like, oh, those hippies, my parents, what do my parents know? But now I'm like, as I started learning, I don't want to, like, take something if I don't have to take something, right? I stopped taking painkillers, for example, a long time ago. The only time I take them now is like, oh, I had surgery. Okay, yeah, it's kind of, I need that.
Need it.
And when you understand how pain works, it's like, it should not be something you're taking all the time. And like, an example is like Tylenol. I was listening to something. It's like, they're like, do you know how toxic that is if you take it all the time? Which a lot of people do. It like wrecks your liver. Yeah, or they'll, it says you do not drink without, like, you cannot, and people do all the time, and it destroys you, and you become a crutch. And then there's the opioid crisis. Purdue Pharma got a multi-billion-dollar fine. No one went to jail for that. They instigated the opioid crisis. So when you start saying things like, hey, do I really need to take this thing, whatever it may be, they'll make all sorts of accusations. Now, something like aspirin, it comes from willow bark, so there's a lot more natural origin to that. But a lot of this other stuff is like, do I really need to take this? Am I gonna die if I don't take this thing?
It's it's this what you're saying. We can talk for hours, but to make it short, it's just that discernment. Our capacity to know when something is helpful or when something is constructive or destructive. We, as a society, I don't think we have that capacity, because I feel like we are so, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people are so biased towards what they appears on TV that even if their intuitive mind tells them that's not true, they cannot accept that as a no. Yeah. They have to go through whatever that.
Well, they told me.
They told you. So that's like telling, oh, Santa Claus was seen at the mall last week. Yeah. There are 10 people who saw it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who literally at least contemplate it. contemplate it. So that to me is the danger. It's dangerous because of, as a society, even we teach children to repeat information instead of teaching children how to use tools so they don't have to be codependent on people. Our adults, the same thing. We're always waiting for something or somebody to tell us what's right, what's wrong, but we have no capacity to figure out ourselves. It's like when if I serve you a meal, you can tell if the meal is cooked properly, if it's burned, the way it smells, if it's fresh. That analogy put out there with medicine, food, politics, we have no idea. And we have individuals who are constantly changing their minds, who are like a roller coaster, up and down, left and right, changing all the time. And for me to have that amount of people still valuing their opinion, that shows that we're not ready for that.
Well, and that nice, the science changes. Like on some of it, no, it has not. If you're actually reading the science, no, it has not changed that much. It's the politics behind it, and you start digging into stuff.
Yes, it's I'm saying when I say science, is what they see on the news as a science, because most people, like you said, they have never taken an opportunity to do an actual research about things. It's just whatever is on the news. Oh, that's right, that's true, or that's not. And I think that what's happening right now is the most evident. How do you say evident? Super obvious. How easy the narrative can change, and we just forget.
Well, it's funny, like it's the internet. It changed everything because people forget, like, oh, the media is lying now more than ever. It's like, no, it didn't. They're just getting caught.
Exactly.
It's the same people for 100 years that have been pulling this crap, and now it's transparent as ever. But there's been so good at controlling people's minds that they don't, like, even though everyone is like, not everyone, like, stay 10% of the population is looking back and be like, hold on a second, this doesn't make sense, and here's my well-argued reasoning based on evidence of why I don't want to do what you're telling me to do, whatever, be mask or not mask or whatever. Mask is a silly one to me. I used to do occupational health and safety. At first I was like, wear a mask. Why? Because they were telling us it was just from the spit. I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. They knew it was airborne way before they told us. And I was like, motherfuckers, we don't need to wear masks. And I've seen, like, actual experts, these are mask experts, be like, I don't, like, you don't need to wear it for this. It might have some, I would say if you're going, around strange people for like 10 minutes, just a percentage, it's probably some degree of effectiveness. But if you're sitting in like an office in a closed circuit for all day, it's not going to do shit. And you tell people that, I'm like, this is based on I didn't even know they had like 100 peer-reviewed studies or like 70 peer-reviewed and 30 non on this topic before COVID. And they're like, it's pointless for coronaviruses. If you want to, you have to do something more significant, like a half man. And I was like, and you tell this to people, like, I don't care because the experts told me. And I'm like, no, those aren't the experts. Those are the public media relations people.
Especially one of the things that to me really, I knew right away as soon as, because we can never claim to know everything. We can never claim to have the ultimate truth. We have to have that time where we really evaluate things and take our time. When I was going through that time, I was just waiting for one person, just one single soul to talk to me about immune system. And so far, to me, that was something that didn't make any sense. It's like martial arts. If you really want somebody to defend themselves, do you tell them, hey, there is a guy that you can hire as a bodyguard 24/7, or you can just show the person how to control their bodies, use their own skills so they can, defend themselves whenever it's needed. The same thing with immune system. You have to teach people how to eat, what immune system is, how you can change it. But since nobody talks about that, to me, that was the main thing that made me question the whole thing. Because to me, I do the basic math. When somebody truly cares about me, that person is thinking about my physical health, my mental health, and my emotional health. We're now living in a situation where people or the system doesn't care if you have a job, doesn't care if you have a roof under you, if you can have a place to sleep, if you have...
Mics are going to pick that up,
no,
the beeping.
No. So good. or even the amount of people who have committed suicide during the last 2 years.
Yeah, they don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it. And to me, when you tell me that it's for the good of all, to protect people, to protect who? We're acting as if 99% of humanity is, it doesn't have a good, it's not healthy. As if everybody's compromised immune system wise. It's not.
Yeah.
So who are we talking? Protecting who?
Yeah.
That rather is something that, you know, just like they do presidential debates, they should do doctors debate
publicly.
Will you bring the best guys, left, right, all of them, and we do that live.
Yeah.
Show me that.
Well, because it's like the Great Barrington Declaration. Did you see that one?
No.
It was like, I don't know, 10 or 15,000 doctors. It was like 40,000 doctors, like 10 or 15,000 medical researchers in the field. Like it was 100,000 people overall signed this thing saying these policies. This is like a year and a half, 2 years ago. The head guy was he was like one of the former board of directors for like Canadian doctors. And even him, after that, they kind of got to him and he started like staying away from people who wanted to support him. And we were basically saying these lockdowns are not scientific, like all that stuff. There was another one, the Rome Declaration. It was a bit smaller, also saying similar things like vaccine mandates are insane. Like this doesn't make any sense for this. You know, for this thing, not necessarily the other thing, but this thing, right? And nobody cares. There's like, here's a whole bunch of experts, guys, like a lot of them, tens of thousands of them. You're not listening to them. So
and adding to what you're saying, not because something is called vaccine, it means that it's exactly doing what other vaccines 20 years ago are doing. Because everybody's always saying, that's a vaccine. You remember chicken pox, all of them? Like, wait a second. Do you eat anything that's called food?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Yeah. You kind of see it, you smell it. That's the same thing should be applied when you say vaccine. Vaccine takes at least 10 years to be able to prove the beginning effects, mid-term effect, long-term effects, and then you can test it. When people are not even talking about it, how much people are struggling based on food, lacking opportunities, what they're going through, and everybody's forcing a vaccine that has not been proven. To me, there's so many things that contradict what we're experiencing that makes me even doubt it even more. Yeah, you know, especially now they're talking about creating a vaccine for 6 months old. I'm like, you know who's gonna touch my child? Yeah. Good luck with that. Yeah,
it's very and people get mentally behind it because this is how I get back to normal. I've noticed that people are a lot more selfish than they like to say.
What is normal?
Yeah.
What is normal?
Well, that is the question. What is normal? Is it what you're used to? Or so why I said normalcy bias. It's like yesterday and today they say I want it to be tomorrow, but like the number one thing that we know for sure in life is change. And if you can't adapt, and what we're seeing is systems that are teaching people not to adapt and not get used to change and just, we have to keep everything the same. So, this sort of, and I'm shocked at people just willingly saying it's okay because, quote, they want to get back to normal. Now, because you grew up in Venezuela and it's gone even further downhill, because I've had guests on who came from, communist Hungary and communist East Berlin or East Germany, and other places, and they're like, I don't want like what I'm seeing right now because this reminds me of what I saw. Now, for a lot of people, as we were talking about, history is, that history is too far ago, but Venezuela is a lot more recent.
The same. If anybody is listening to this, please try to look for the story of Venezuela in the last 20 years. You see a guy winning, everybody gives him more power. You see the Venezuelan people dividing left and right, hating each other. You see then the government making rules or changing laws so people who don't support the government start losing their jobs. People start losing their jobs. A lot of people start leaving Venezuela. A lot of investors start leaving Venezuela. Government takes over everything. A whole bunch of people from other countries were brought to Venezuela to be part of the military and police. We had a lot of people who didn't speak Spanish. They were police officers. I don't know how the heck they got there. People were started protesting. The military went outside. That was battle for many, many years. People got tired. People got sick. They had no fuel to continue fighting. Some military people tried to fight that. A lot of them were killed. A lot of them were bought. They bought their souls. And you see what's happening right now. So if you see that in a larger scale, what's happening, how similar is that to what I just explained in different forms? The same thing. It's just different teams, different labels, different suits, different scripts. Same thing.
It's like New York. Fire all the medical personnel and bring in the National Guard.
I'm like,
it's like or California, a lot of people are leaving. There's anyone with money that doesn't agree with that, they're leaving. That isn't entrenched in the California system, they're just leaving. And California tried or is trying to pass a tax where if you leave, we can tax you for 10 years, which wouldn't fly in the courts in America beyond that. But it's just like your policies are failing because they don't work, and people are leaving. And you said really interesting that they brought in foreigners who don't share the same cultural values of the people who grew up there, because what do they care, right? It's a way of diluting
especially
it.
When most of the people who were brought, they were criminals in prison in their countries.
Yeah, that's
even better. Even like that's why you saw so many people getting shot. It's like, how can people be so evil? Because they brought the best of the best.
Yeah, which America has safeties against that because of the Second Amendment. Like if you would start seeing civil war if they tried to pull that shit in the U.S.
No, that's when Venezuela has civil war.
Yeah.
I've lost friends. They were trying to fight and everything. They didn't care. You know the amount of people that died that nobody knows about? Oh my God, so many people.
All over the world for all sorts of reasons.
Oh,
nobody
so
cares.
many. Yeah, nobody cares. Again, we have the amnesia memory. We just forget within 2 weeks.
I always say, the whole COVID thing, I'm like, and I don't know because I'm not seeing it anywhere. How's Africa handling this thing? Has anyone talked about Africa? I thought we like to talk about third world countries. Are they not having millions of people dying all over the place? Because I think we would have heard about that, don't you think?
Exactly.
Like, I always thought that was weird. Like, and they're just, Nigeria's over there just doing its thing. Nobody gives a shit. Like, I haven't seen a peep coming out of Africa from the media or any sources. And I'm just like, that is really strange.
No, even the most common thing is like when we had friends 3-4 years ago, how many times you heard friends, I'm not going today, I have a cold.
Yeah.
I have a fever. Now you don't hear anybody about fever, cold. Everybody has COVID.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, did you forget that 3-4 years ago you used to have diarrhea, you had cold, you had fever, and you recover? You used to go camping, getting waste, you come back, you recover, same as COVID.
Which, by the way, where we are in Metro Vancouver, there is a cold or flu going around right now, because I know tons of people who've gotten sick and they got tested as negative. And so I'm just like, last year when they said the cold and flu is gone, and I'm like, okay, I don't believe that it's gone, first of all. Reduced maybe, but gone. They were publicly saying it's gone. We have no cases, 0 cases. I'm like, are you on crack? There's no way.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We forget. We simply forget. We are like humanity has never gotten sick.
Yeah.
You are sick? I'm like, yeah, didn't you get sick like 10 times a year, every year? Now everybody's, even when you go to hospitals, I see everybody doing nothing, the same thing, nothing going on. So that to me is just, again, the reality that we see on the streets is not a reality that people are talking about. And like you're saying, how many times you see in third world countries, everybody's living their life just like nothing is happening.
Yeah.
Everybody, like...
Well, you're not seeing it. That was my point. Like, I know they're living their lives, but you're not seeing it. And for a while, you were hearing, we need to save the vaccines, to stop giving the second, third doses because the third world country needs it. That narrative's gone. They're not talking about it anymore because magically, probably they don't really need it that badly. Their immune systems are either like, because those, a lot of countries are still like, if you're strong, you survive. If you're weak, you don't, unfortunately. But it's just life. That's how it is. Especially
how come that everybody forgets about natural immunity? Why we don't talk about it?
Well, they do, but there's always I've heard many, because I'm listening directly to doctors and virologists and scientists through podcasts and stuff. So, trust the experts. I'm listening to the experts. A lot of them will still caveat, natural immunity is shockingly good, but you should still get, and I'm like, stop with the but. Listen, man, if you're under a certain age, don't try to go get COVID, but objectively, you're probably fine. And if there are other specific reasons to an individual why you're like, hey, I should get vaccinated, if that's what you want to do, I'm like, okay.
It's a choice.
But like, I'm hearing that being added on. There was that big Israeli paper because they just became Pfizer's test lab, which is no Israelis don't seem to have a problem with that, but whatever. And they're like, natural immunity, it's so amazing. Like, oh my God, but still get the vaccine. Like they added it in, like emphasizing. It's like, and then another guy was listening the other day, same thing. He's like, oh man, we're actually surprised at how good natural immunity is. But if you don't have it, yeah, you need to go out right now and get it. And I'm like, come on.
But don't you notice one pattern?
Yeah.
Every time when we hear about this, it's always like, if you don't do it now, it might be not tomorrow. Yeah. If you don't do it now, you might be... It's always with that if you. That if you, it feels like scaring. When something is good for you, tactic, you just know it.
Yeah.
And nobody has to be... It's like when you care about, I don't know, your wife. How do you know your wife loves you? Because she's constantly doing something to show you, no? Because she
hasn't run away yet.
You know what I mean.
She's stuck around.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like it's like everything in life. Some things you need a bit more time to know that they're good for you, but 99% of things they're good for you. Nobody has to force them on you, especially when nobody is talking about if people can afford their food, their shelter. That to me is just the most... I don't care about what you have to say if you don't talk about people with their basic needs. You know, and that to me is why it doesn't... People need vaccines and not people need food, potato, tomato, food, real food.
Now, because I know you love to talk like me. So obviously when you're going around, like when you've had the conversations with people... Like, listen, man, I'm from Venezuela. I know how this plays out. How does that conversation go?
That has been hard, I say straight up. I think throughout the years, my own healing has been accepting what I cannot change, understanding it's fucking hard to accept. But I still speak my truth if you ask me. But I don't think that I expand as much as before just because of... I don't feel motivated. You know, sometimes it's tough to... Because sometimes you know that no matter how much you talk or say things, people need to experience their own to find their truth. And no matter how much we want to speed up things or we know we can help people, when people are not ready for certain things, or sometimes I'm not ready for certain things, things don't happen. And what I see now is just... Before, I would tell people like, this is what I went through. See Venezuela, the story of Venezuela was very wealthy. Everybody was there. It was great. See how they started strategizing the way they run the government. Look at how people were hating each other. Look at how they lost all powers. People started leaving the country. They changed the laws. The government took over all the food supplies, everything. So now if you want food, you have to support the government. Whoever doesn't support the government doesn't get food. The same thing, the same formula is now happening. Now, I wouldn't be surprised in the near future if you didn't get vaccine, you cannot...
Social credit system. Yeah. There is, and this is not conspiratorial, is that when governments realized that cryptocurrency was going to be their downfall because it was designed to be decentralized currency that they can't control Bitcoin, like cannot, no matter how much they want to. It was designed that way. Well, now they want to release digital currency. The global countries are talking about digital currency, meaning that it's currency on a blockchain, so they can track everything because countries have been wanting to get away from cash for a long time, and they were sort of trying to do it in this, like companies not accepting cash because of COVID. It's like first of all, that's still illegal in this country. Companies were doing it anyway. But digital currency, as in such as there's no more paper money. We can literally track every penny, every dollar because it's on the blockchain ledger, but it's managed by the government because it's essentially a Canadian dollar cryptocurrency. So they can track everything. And countries around the world, particularly in the former Commonwealth, are talking about we want to go digital currency. The banks are talking about digital currency now. Not in the way, like my bank account it's digital, but as in right now they can't track it. If it goes blockchain, they can track. And they're speculating the reason that they want to do that is that as technology replaces the working class. The working class historically and traditionally gets a little bit more uppity and starts going up against the elites. But by doing digital currency, they can actually say, if you don't agree with us, you can only buy this kind of food. You won't be able to buy luxury. We'll block you with our social credit thing. Your digital passport, you can't buy stuff. And this isn't conspiratorial. They're talking about it publicly.
That's something I want to ask you. So when we talk about conspiracy, how would you define conspiracy?
Well, I mean, in the sort of literal, it's like to conspire against, right? So if you start from that point, is like, what does that mean? Are you conspiring against your people? Are you conspiring against an individual? Are you conspiring to withhold information?
So based on what you're saying, when anybody says you are conspiracy theories, what do you think they're meaning by that?
They usually would think that what you're saying is totally made up. You're probably off in La La Land.
So they're defending who?
They're defending their ego,
or what they believe the
what
system
they believe.
is.
Yeah.
So that's to me the main thing. That I don't know what else has to happen for people to see that there is a game being played that it's not fair. Because let's just make it basic. I don't expect people when we say, "Oh, I'm awake."
Red pilled.
Oh my God. That word has so many layers.
Because are you left wing woke or are you red pill right wing woke, right?
No. Yeah, yeah. There's so many layers that's why I'm like, that's why when I think of all of this, it's truly an internal journey that not until people face their own demons, they realize that they're being manipulated. They realize that we have no idea what sovereignty is as a collective. I think that when you ask people, can you define sovereignty? I think that most people have no idea what sovereignty is.
Let me do my thing. Leave me the fuck alone.
or you ask people, what is a right? What is a privilege? Can you please explain the difference between both? Most people have no idea. Yeah. They think having shelter is a privilege.
Well, for example, a lovely prime minister who somehow got in again, I think due to voter ignorance and apathy, honestly, most people they don't realize the things he's done. I think they just don't. He said as of end of November, you can't go on planes if you're not. And I'm like, that literally violates the charter put in place by his own father. I don't see how that's not going to get challenged. And if that's allowed to stay, it's a problem.
That's what I was saying. Like, if we evaluate the whole thing from a higher perspective, what has to happen in humanity for people to do something to claim their sovereignty?
Well, historically, let's say, in democratic, I used to be like, the democracy matters, and I still say vote. In Canada, it still matters. Unfortunately, a lot of people are apathetic, as I said, or don't know, and they're not informed. But, sorry, where was I starting?
No, I'm saying like what has to happen in society for people to claim. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, they have to realize that it can be taken from them. So historically, what I was getting at is when there's a big shift in parties, the one thing that is consistent is mass job loss and the inability for the individual to provide for themselves. That almost always switches to political party. So if you do it smooth, if a government or malice do it smooth enough, it's like the frog in the boiled pot. They don't realize till it's too late. If they do it in a jerking motion, usually it ends up in conflict. And then hopefully the, quote, right side wins. The one that wants more freedom will win, but it doesn't always, as Venezuela, it doesn't always win that way. So you have to make people feel like it's desperation. It's as you were saying earlier about trying to meet in the middle, like I don't like a lot of left-wing ideology. And I realize it's not that I don't like some of the things they're saying, it's I don't like their solutions. So but when I started listening, okay, some of their points are very valid. Their solutions to the problems I despise because it leads to Venezuela. But, they'll say, criminals, this because they had an abused home and they don't understand and you have to be empathetic or compassionate. And I'm like, okay, but they're still a violent criminal, right? I understand they had a hard past and I understand that desperation will cause people to steal or desperation. But you know what? So your solution is, let's say California, we're not charging anyone for theft or anything under $700, because it's a necessity for them. And then you see people on the daily videos of people just walking into stores with bags, clearing off the shelf, counting it. Oh, it's under $700, walking out. And I'm like, that's not desperation, you idiots, right? So yes, it's correct that when people are desperate, they'll do what they need to do to survive. It's human nature. But your solution was to say there's no penalty for being ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's your solution?
Why do we have to get to that point in the first place?
But it's not even a solution. Yeah. It's like you literally just destroyed your economy. Now there's a couple like Walmart-like stores that have just said fuck it and left California because they're like, we're losing millions and millions and millions of dollars. I can't afford to stay there.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. When we talk about sovereignty, it's like this. Let's say you have a good option, a good solution, and you have a crappy solution. You still have the choice, okay, left or right. But when you have two crappy solutions, they're not even solutions, why do we even still choose?
Yeah.
If you serve me 2 plates of food with rotten food, I don't care how much you tell me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not eating this. Yeah. Same thing should be with everything. It's that internal power that people have to claim that sovereignty and be like, should I take a vaccine or should I die because I cannot afford to live? Yeah. That should never be an option.
Yeah. Well, let's take the Canada political system, for example. I vote for an MP federally. They're supposed to represent me. But that's not how it works because it's increasingly they're not allowed to vote against their party. So are they representing me now or are they representing their party? And people make all sorts of arguments about, well, no, of course they have to vote for the party, otherwise it'll be chaos and we won't get anything done. I'm like, but that's literally not how our system's supposed to work. It's supposed to be, if they're not sure how to vote on a thing, they go to their constituents and say, hey, I'm doing an open meeting, like I want to know. That's just too much work, so they don't. It's too complicated for the administrative system. And what I want to see in Canada is a none of the above option. So if enough people vote none of the above, all the candidates have to be booted and they have to put new people.
So now I ask you, what would be a solution for what you're saying? We're talking about people that just quote unquote represent us. They do nothing. The same script, we change. How can we change or what can we do so anybody that wants to be in that position as a candidate, you must have this, and I don't give a crap where you graduated from school. I don't care who your dad is. I don't care how much money you make. What can you do to show and prove that you're capable of maintaining that position?
Well, first thing I'll go back and say I think it needs to be just illegal and entrenched and codified that you cannot boot an MP just for voting against your party.
No, let's say I want to be a MP guy. What do I have to do to qualify for that job?
Right now, I think you pay a little bit of a fee.
But that's the problem.
The party has to pick you as their candidate.
But that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so each party technically has the right to sort of set its own rules. That's how it works right now. But as far as a citizen, what do I want? Like, I'd like less lawyers, first of all, because, the argument, I had a friend who was on the podcast and he's in law, and it's like, why are there so many lawyers? It's like, well, it makes sense because, and I'm not thinking against him, I'm not mocking him or anything, but he's like, it makes sense because they need to learn how to write the laws and they're working the laws. I'm like, no. I didn't really harp him on this too much, but it's like, we need different perspectives.
Exactly.
And if everyone just goes in the same damn way of we know how to make laws, well, now you've made everything insanely complicated because they're all lawyers and they know how to finagle the law in a way, but that's not representation. So there needs to be some, maybe at a higher level, it's like there can only be X amount of lawyers, and if there's too many lawyers, sorry, you can't run as a candidate.
Especially too, when we analyze humanity, there is the physical science and the human science. You cannot just have an engineer, a doctor, and a nuclear scientist making decisions about life if you haven't asked the psychologist, the healer, the farmer. You see what I mean? We are so disconnected from being human that we truly believe that technology and numbers are the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
And that's why when we see what you're saying, example you're saying, I asked my dad this question. I'm like, Dad, why do we have so many laws? Don't you think that even the Bible, you read those commandments, we can break them down to like 5. We don't have to go 10. And following those ones, we can have a pretty good society if we follow
Don't murder people.
Yeah, simple, basic.
Don't steal people's wives.
Basic stuff. But when we see the society, we see billions of laws that protect certain parties. We have a very complex vocabulary that most people have no idea what they're reading when they're like, what do I sign? Okay, here, okay. It's all made so we don't understand what's happening.
Or they play with shenanigans. And like, that's one, for me, I look at America and like, to me, one of the biggest problems, corruption aside on both parties, stop these insanely 3,000-page bills where nobody knows what the fuck's in them, and they'll have one or two big ones they're talking about, and then the corrupt people slip something in the back end and nobody knows what, and they're like, hey, it's on the law. Like, I was just listening to a Breaking Point. It's a former Fox anchor and a foreign CNN people. They're center left but you know, they were talking about the family behind Purdue Pharma and the opioid crisis. Well, they're trying to lobby now to make it so that they're protected from legal liability, even though they lost the court case saying they owe billions of dollars because they knew, and they're trying to skirt criminal liability and protect the industry now from people coming after them again. And it's like, that shouldn't even be on the table.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Who allows these things?
Yeah, they do with the money.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I say from the beginning. It's a healing journey, because if we still have billions of people or millions of people who are willing to sell their souls for money so they can keep a job or a pension, don't expect society to change.
Yeah. Well, on that point, I haven't read it, but allegedly certain local doctors that are famous globally, because they're so sweet, little old mother, Bonnie Henry, put in her book, alluding pretty hard, I wasn't making decisions based on health and safety. It's basically, I want to keep my job. And there was a case, a hot mic in Ontario a year and a half ago. They had two people. They were like, I don't know, I just read what I'm told. They were hot mic. They didn't know the mic was on. And that's, these people just want to keep their job.
Yep.
They actually have the authority to publicly say no. And if they get fired, they can then go to the court system and say, I got fired because I'm telling them what's right for health and safety, and they told me no because of politics. And the judge should hypothetically be like, wait a second, that's wrongful dismissal. And then it can be public knowledge that the government ignored the health and safety simply for politics because Karens were yelling at them.
But again, that's exactly what I'm saying. Not until we get to that point where people who are in those positions, they have the spiritual strength to say no. They either go through that, or they might be going through some other stuff that we are not aware of. I understand that too. But again, there are ways. There are ways to help. But if people don't even talk about it, if people are just putting things under the rug, we want to continue. That's why I said this process that we're experiencing right now is going to take a while. Unfortunately, human beings, we have to struggle a lot to change.
Well, you know, it's... even before COVID, there were some historians writing about how they feel like global tensions are similar to pre-World War I. And that war broke out for reasons that make no sense. I heard an argument that it was to do with sort of, back then they even had these globalist type people who were manipulating things. And apparently even Hitler for World War II was kind of, they were trying to manipulate him. And then when he's like, no, go fuck yourself because he's a crazy person. I'm my own person. Then that's when they like... You know, that's where it gets, quote, conspiracy, because it's hard. So on that other thing, it's when it's very difficult to prove definitively, it sounds conspiratorial. But then I always bring up, hey, UFOs were just confirmed. And they're not saying they're aliens. We don't know. There's flying objects that we don't know what the fuck they are. That just means that people aren't nuts that have been seeing these things. Now, some of the people's stories maybe don't make sense, but the idea that if UFOs have been confirmed by the U.S. government, they've been denying it to your face for 70 years. It means they've known about them since World War II, and they were lying to you.
Way before that.
Oh, probably, but the evidence, at least, so they lied to you about that, and then they admit it 70 years later. What else are they lying to you about? And that's not even like, hey, we're not saying they're aliens. We don't know what the fuck these things are, man. They fly around. They're faster than our jets. I was joking. It's actually Japanese technology. That's why they're like, come at us, bro, to China. Like, it's really them. No Gundams, but those. But it's like, so we have the tension, pre-World War I tensions going on right now. With the division of pre-World War II Germany, it's not that bad yet, but it's starting to feel like that to some degree. And the internet. And then you have China doing what China's doing. They basically this week are openly saying, yeah, we're going to go after Taiwan. We're going after Taiwan. We're going after Taiwan. How do we not have a big war in the next 5? I thought it would be like 5 to 10 years, but with China saying what it's saying now, I'm like,
yeah. I mean, there are many things I can say about this, but I'm a strong believer of we as a collective, whole bunch of people living in a specific area, whatever we're thinking and believe it, we manifest that in some way or form. When you see the narrative, it's always fear. Halloween story, Halloween movie every time. I believe that, every war that has been ever been in history has always been at some type of setup. No, I don't think that people have ever fought for a real legit reasons. I think it has been just made up stories.
But what's legit? Because I was telling my wife about humans have this concept, only us, we fight for territory. We always want resources. I'm like, what if, a grizzly bear has a territory of 100, 200, 300,000 kilometers, and other major grizzly bears stay the fuck out of his territory. I'm like, that nature does it. If we're animals, we do it, but we're, intelligent enough that we have to be like, hey, we can't just destroy everything because we all want this shit all the time. So, set up or not, or sometimes I think it is just a miscommunication.
No, I'm talking about the wars. They are more the recent ones. They're more political. In the ancient times, obviously it was different times.
Yeah, resource and I want my salt, bro.
my gold, stuff like that. Yeah, but now it's more political stuff. It's sad to see how many great people have been sacrificed for political things that don't make any sense. And that's why to me the number one solution for our world is that emotional healing for every single citizen. So whatever we project that out there, that it's as an emanation of that type of sovereignty, energy that they, no matter what that you throw at me, it just bounce. It bounces. And that's why we have to have this type of human conversations. It's not so much into what this guy say, that guy say, but what am I getting from this? Why do I keep following this shit? Why do I don't invest my time in things that are going to help me to become more independent instead of more codependent on things? We even forgot the basic things of, I think the educational system should teach every child to grow their own food, how to cook. We don't teach any of that. So how do we expect to become a self-sufficient type of society when we're still check, quote unquote, the news to see what's happening in the world?
Yeah. Well, there's that billionaire who wants to build a new green city in the middle of the desert, and he wants to build a sustainable, just to self-sustain itself. And I remember having this conversation years ago. They're like, we can't do that because we're all living in cities now. I'm like, have vertical towers with gardens in them, and you can all have tomatoes hanging off the side of the building. And they're like, that's crazy, that's not how anything works. I'm starting to see some architects. I saw a Taiwanese architect. I even saw one in Vancouver now that people are starting to do that. Yes. And it's these ideas we put in our head. Well, cities are built like this, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? Right? I'll look at all that surface area for sunlight. You could easily have gardens growing off the side of buildings. You could have them inside. You could have you can have a lot of people crammed in and still have the gardens. Get away from the traditional ideology that we need these huge swaths of field to grow. We don't need that. We understand how it works now. Yeah. But people 10 years ago were like, you're fucking crazy. That's not...
But that's exactly the big misconception or illusion. They would truly believe that nature or anything that comes from nature is all or doesn't work. The pill works. The robot is better than the natural thing, and that's why, especially what you're mentioning, is so important because of, I'm not an architect, but I'm kind of familiar with what you're saying, especially when the type of elements that you use to build, the position in the planet of what you're building, what type of natural resources you have around, the position of the sun, you can change the vortex or the energy of certain places, and that allows things to flourish better. It's not just a cement, it's not just a block or a building, a high rise, it's nothing like that. In the ancient times, they had a lot of technologies we are not aware of.
Yeah, there was I remember reading an article about Roman concrete. up until recently, they couldn't figure out how in the hell they made concrete that was so strong, and they couldn't figure it out forever. Yeah. They recently, it had something to do with volcanic ash, that the way they were doing it, and it just created a super strong chemical bond. But it's like, you know, since modern concrete, you know, the last 100 years, they'd be like, how did the Romans figure this out? And it's lasted longer than anything we can produce today. And this idea that the ancients were stupid, it's like, you don't know that.
Well, I think that one of the, it's might be controversial what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say, I think that once in the future people realize what Atlantis was, what Lemuria was, we'll be blown away with the type of technology that we had before. They have been lost in time.
What do you think Atlantis is, like what it was?
Well, I think that's going to be a long conversation, but it's an ancient civilization that was here, and, you know, there was a lot of wars there, spiritual wars, technological wars. They fell apart and they rebuilt again. Civilization has been destroyed and rebuilt over and over. It's the same cycle has happened over and over.
It's you said it's a couple themes there that it's like sci-fi shows. Reminds you ever see Stargate SG-1 ever?
No, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, they sort of allude to that they're humans. There was some ancient races, humans evolved on this planet like 100 million years ago, and then they left 1 million years ago, and Atlantis was their advanced thing, and they left, and then they came back, you know, a couple thousand years ago, and then, you know, it was the Egyptians, it was these parasitic people, the Gauld, they had, that's what it was, landing platforms. But it's interesting. And then this has happened before, happened again, as a classic line at the very spoiler alert, at the very end of Battlestar Galactica. This has happened. It gets very like gaudy, and then they end up being angels being like, why do they always play this game? It's happened before, it's going to happen. And it was on a grand galactic scale where we build robots fight us, blah, 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 and then they merge. And our current human civilization is a merge of the last iteration of the robots, and like genetically, they literally merged. It somehow happened. That human-like androids that were somehow able to conceive. And the way they tied it in, it was the original one was Lucy, like, you know, the Lucy. That's how they, in that series, it was like, oh, that's interesting.
All I'm saying, I know there are a lot of creative people out there, but there is a lot of science fiction that is created based on things that they actually exist. Yeah. And I think that's something, I don't think they were ready for that type of conversations yet. But in the future, it will be something I'm really looking forward, just because we can drastically change our society if we just open our mind to see that there is way more than what we think. Well,
it's, you know, what's that show, The Expanse? Have you ever seen The Expanse? No sci-fi for you? No. So The Expanse, they find, spoiler alert again, they find this molecule, they call it the proto-molecule, and it's like, this is alien. They don't know what it is. It's like this blue chemical. And it keeps doing things. It's like a sentient molecule. Because what it was a technology that was meant to gather resources to build a specific thing. But in the process, it had no set path. Because it would start with one molecule, then two, then it would start building things, it would start creating things, it would infect people to do what it wanted them to do. And it was simply a technology. Its end goal was to evolve, however it did it, to build a gateway. That was it. And it got me thinking is there a set endpoint for evolution, as in it will inevitably always end up like this? Or is it an open-ended code, as in it's just a yes and no algorithm, and it doesn't really care? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Evolution is a yes, no, yes, no. Go this way, work? No, well, that branch dies. Or is it a yes, no process to an end goal, like, say, an energy being, and the universe doesn't care how you achieve it? It's crazy,
No,
right?
no, you're saying I can, like... I think it all comes down to an individual journey, because I think that if you ask me my point of view on life, I think that this is not the first time we live. I think that we have been doing this for many, many times.
Like reincarnation, or just the
I don't call it reincarnation, because reincarnation is the understanding of you having a human experience, dying, and then going back into the same type of similar experience with no memories of your previous experiences. That's reincarnation, when your system literally takes away everything you have learned, and it's like you get into black belt, you die, and you forget everything again. That's reincarnation. Incarnation is when you maintain the experiences you have acquired, that you can recall what you have experienced. And that's why the spiritual activation or healing is so important to be able to have access to those type of experiences. And that's what's up. I mean, I don't want to go to that, but that's what's so reinforced the vaccines, because the vaccines change the way our DNA works, the way memories are activated.
Potentially, I'm just because I don't know enough. I'll be like, I don't know one way or the other. All I know is there's no long-term data. So come on.
Yeah.
But I find with modern medicine in general, we can find out that thing that we thought we were helping us was actually only treating the symptoms, not the cause. And that you find a lot of the times people get off all sorts of medications because they find out what the cause was. They fix the cause. They're like, oh, I don't need all these medications.
Even how many times you see people just doing intermittent fasting,
it fixes
and fixes 50% of their diseases.
Yeah, my wife.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That shows right there that the real technology is not being shared. It's not being passed on because that doesn't make money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that doesn't make money.
Yeah.
And we live in a society that's run by money. We truly believe that our main purpose of being this planet is to earn as much money. So when we die, we are successful. That's the biggest science fiction story of all.
Yeah.
It's not. That's why it's so easy for us to compete with each other. So easy for us to stab each other in the back because we see that as an ultimate goal. There is never like, oh, I'm here to learn. Oh, I'm here to say.
Well, see, it's an interesting because talking about evolution, like if I compare the fundamental survival mechanism for any species is the gathering of resources. You don't think if that bear couldn't gather all the deer and pile it and it had refrigeration, it wouldn't figure out how to do that. So the gathering of resources is a algorithmic method for survival and passing on the genes, because all the genes want to do is survive. But here we're now at a species point where some of us want to get past that. Now we want enough. So that's why I say politically the left says everyone should be equal. And I'm like, that's not how that works, because we just don't all have the equal skill set.
Exactly.
It just doesn't work like that.
Equity.
Yeah.
Will be the word for this, because you know equity. What does it mean to you? Equity.
Well, the definition keeps changing. Like,
to me, equity means when we are fair based on individual situations. Let's say you have a broken leg and there is a block next to us. You have the opportunity to go pick it up, but I do know that I'm healthy. So who should be picking up that block? You or me? That's equity.
yeah.
Even when you should be picking up the block, just because you had that limitation right there, the law should be changed based on the circumstances. Not everybody has the same opportunities. Not everybody has the same physical health. Not everybody lives in the same area. So the law should be changed based on the circumstances and not so much about equality. It's like a billionaire giving $10 to you or a homeless guy giving $10 to you. Is that the same?
No.
It's not the same. So that's equity.
Yeah.
When you make it fair based on what you can offer and what you can get.
See, that's where we get risky, because I believe that, and this is definitely controversial, some of you are just never going to do it. Some of you are going to excel, and most of you are in the middle. And the more we fight that, the more we're going to fuck up, regardless of what size. Because I just look around, I look at that, and I'm like, that follows a universal code, the bell curve model of energy output. Now, some people are really good with their hands. Some people are really good intellectually. Some people are really good at whatever, and that's fine. One, you can't make everyone the same. But as far as, I just think there is 10% of the population, I'm just like, I'm sorry. I don't know what you want me to do with these people.
That's what I said from the beginning.
Yeah.
After this experience, it has been a big, big journey for me to just accept what I cannot change.
Yeah.
People who I know, they're great, they have good heart, but they cannot see what's in front of them. And what are you going to do? Accept it.
Well, it's even on an evolution, I think from a species gene survival, if the entire species takes too many risks too often, the whole thing will be wiped out. So I think, if we take that same model, 10% of people are just factually useless, and then we as a society have to decide what we want to do with these people. Morally we should not treat them like dirt, but just accept they're not doing anything. 10% of the people are going to just excel, whatever the topic. They're just going to be producers, and everyone else just sort of lives sort of comfortably. But from a genetic sort of species perspective, it's like you need that middle group to kind of just be comfortable chilling. because if too many people are taking risks, the whole thing gets wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
You want that other 10% on the other side to experiment and do stuff. But historically, if we look at society, that 10% that is driving the society forward actually usually get killed for it. And it's after they die for it, people are like, oh, they were right.
Exactly.
You know, and so the middle group is the people sort of accepting, well, we have to do what we're told because it's safe and this, we need stability, rules and laws. And then other people are like, hey, this isn't, like, I understand the health and safety aspect and we do need to protect those who are vulnerable, but this is not the way we do it. They're the ones who get ostracized. And then when things collapse or go poorly, they look back and like, it's like the guy who discovered plate tectonics. In his time, they're like, laughed him out of science. You're a lunatic. You're like a crazy person. And then like after he died, like broke. And it's like Nikola Tesla too, who were just now rediscovering a lot of the stuff he figured out. The plate tectonics, like 40 years or something after he died, someone's like, oh, we got this new information. You know, I think there was somebody who thought of this already and had an argument. Maybe I should look at their writing. And they're like, you know, he was right. But in his time, he just ostracized. Or, you know, I forgot the Greek guy who got killed for his beliefs. I forget, like not Plato, the other one. You know, the earth is not the center of the solar system kind of thing. And they're like, you will die for your blasphemy. And he was right. Right? So often the people who are telling you who are correct are not in that middle group, but that middle group exists to keep the species surviving in case that person is wrong. But it'll always be that outlier who drives us forward, because it's the outliers that are creative. It's the outliers who think differently. You know, that great motto, think different from Apple, except now they're not doing that. Just be another generic company.
No, 100%. And especially the same thing has happened in ancient times. The same cycle, you know, society gets control. We claim our sovereignty. There is a revolution. We rebuild a happy system. System get corrupted again. We go the same cycle over and over. I think we're getting to the stage in the same cycle where the middle part are just realizing that the other guys are not wrong. That we have to like, okay, there is something we need to question. But I think this is more connected to your question of what do you think is evolution. I think I have my own evolution, individual, and we have the collective. As the collective, I think we're going through, for sure, more, I would say, metaphysical, spiritual, energetic type of evolution that we're realizing that technology is non-physical. It's not just cables and hammers. It's way beyond that. And even you mentioned Nikola Tesla. How do you think he discovered all of that?
Yeah, or Da Vinci. What the hell?
They had to do some stream of consciousness that most people are not aware of. And that's why it's tough, because talking about this can put you in a category where a lot of people label you as the weird guy, the black sheep, but sooner or later, I think the people who are in that category, they know inside it comes with the job, and that's what I say. I think those people who are like that, they see life more as a spiritual journey and not so much about who congratulates them or who sees what they're doing, because sooner or later they know that what they're going after, that's going to be what they need to checklist to the next one.
Well, there's a lot of people like that checklist, and it's like I used to be, I used to want to be like the millionaire, the Ferraris, and I'm still not against having that kind of money.
No, nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with that.
Set up the lifestyle, but I'm like, I was burning out chasing it. I'm like, I'm missing something. I don't connect with other people. That's the thing that I'm missing, which makes it very difficult to succeed. If you don't have the support, you're not going to succeed. So I just kind of was like, I don't need that much. I'm fine with it. I may or may not have convinced someone else the same sort of attitude. Like, while I like things, like we just got a brand new home speaker, and we were debating, should we spend the money on this? Because it's not cheap. It's like a $2,000 speaker or something. But we were listening to the quality. Like, it's a company we know it's good, and we're like, should we spend the money on this? It's a Bang & Olufsen. And we've had little Bang & Olufsen speakers before, and I'm probably butchering the name. But we went and listened to a Sonos and a Bose, and we're like, it is actually that much better. And we're like, we know the quality of these. We spend the money. It's good for like 10, 15 years. The other thing she had from it, it was like she's had it for 6 years. It's like brand new. So we're like, this is worth it. So having the money to be able to, I want to buy quality and buy those things to enhance your life because we're going to use it every day. But if you're just buying the new cell phone, my wife was saying, this is the first year I haven't bought the new iPhone. And I said to her, it's because, actually, if you're tech, I'm not a huge tech nerd, but I know there's something called Moore's Law about every 2 years or whatever, this capacitor or whatever, they double. Well, I was reading up on it. They're actually at the limit of that, of how fast our CPUs can get. They're hitting the upper limit of our technology, so you're not going to start seeing new phones that are much better anymore, or we're kind of at the limit. The next stage is quantum computing, and we're probably, again, I don't know how it works, but I know that the quantum computers are capable of so much more. But we're probably 10, 15, 20 years away from having quantum computers in the home. It may be longer. I don't really understand the technology fully, but I know that's the next stage. So do I really need the new phone now? At this point, not really, because the technology is actually kind of at its upper peak, but you're still going to be convinced people, I need the money to buy the thing that every year is like, but do you actually? Like the speaker we bought, we're like, you know what? We watch a lot of Netflix. We're going to enjoy it. Let's spend the extra $1,000 from comparable model. It's a noticeable difference for us. We can hear the difference in sound quality. It's worth it. So we want to have money so we can do that kind of things. But a lot of people, like I got asked a while ago, what do you think of capitalism? I'm like, capitalism is fine, but consumerism is not. Because what capitalism does is it allows those who can to do and find those solutions to the problems that we need. And if they get wealthy off of it, great. The problem with capitalism is it's unchecked. When you have unchecked douchebags doing capitalism, like the big corporations now that just don't give two fucks. They say they do, but they don't give a shit. And you can see it by how they're acting. And consumerism. You need to buy this new thing. It's like, but do you? Are you sure? Right? Yeah. Especially if you're an environmentalist, the hardcore, you should be very against consumerism. And a lot of people who say they're pro-environment are super consumerist.
Yeah, I think, obviously I'm nobody to say how people should be perceiving money or material things. Obviously it's a journey for everybody, but from my own experience, there's nothing wrong with people wanting nice things, money. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's more like the use that we give and the value that we give. Money is really a tool for experiences, to experience. It's all experience.
Depends what you want to do. If you want to go in nature, that's free. Go for a walk.
Yeah, but I'm saying like to have, we live in a system that's all based on money, so we have to adapt to that truth. I just think that we have such a toxic relationship with money based on, it's one thing when I see money as a tool, another thing when I see money as my identity. My identity. Like a lot of people see their bank account number as that's how much worth I am. This is my net worth. To me, I'm like, that's your value as a person. And then, yeah, for sure, I'm a successful guy, but they have a miserable life. I question that. Or I have the guy who has barely anything, but he's in his journey. He's not where he would like to be. But he's fulfilled inside. So it's how, the truth can be.
It's again, one of my favorite. He doesn't put enough out there on the internet, Naval Ramakant. So if you don't know him, he's like a Silicon Valley guru. He helps people. He's worth a lot of money. But he does not like this system. He was railing against politics during COVID. He's like, you're all nuts, But much more, he's so much more intelligent how he communicates than me. But he's basically like, you need to, if you want to be truly free, you need enough money to be free of the system. And I think he put it at like $7, $8, $10 million. You get there, like you can, as long as you're not being a douche, you can kind of do what you want.
That's what I wanted to say, because it's possible to make it, but is it possible to do it with integrity? It's possible.
Because what he meant is you need so much money that they can't just come after you willy-nilly and threaten you. He'd be like, dude, I can just what are you going to do? I just sit on my money. Unless you committed a crime that you can arrest me for, you're going to doctor something. And even if then you get enough money, just book it and bail. You know, he's just saying you need enough money to truly be free in our system that's been built and corrupted. You need enough money so that you can actually be free. Because if you don't have it, unfortunately, it's a lot of money now. That's the problem. You need that much money to be free of the system, so that the city wants to. I knew a guy, my old landlord. I don't know how much money he had. His house was probably worth like $14 million, and he lived like a modest lifestyle, super cheap. But I watched him fuck around with city workers and the politicians, and because they're like, listen, leave that guy alone. Like, he's not being malicious, but they knew that if they come after him, he'd fuck around with them in the courts just for fun because he found it entertaining. So he got away with all sorts of stuff that is like, I know he's breaking the law. They left him alone because he's got that kind of money. Where it's like, listen, you guys want to come after me, by all means. I'll tell my lawyer to run you guys around, waste $1 million of taxpayer money in court to screw with me, and I'll enjoy it. So they just left him alone. Like, he wasn't doing anything malicious. He's just a bit of a dick who screwed around and was not following certain rules and laws. Not big ones, but it was more annoying. But that's what I realized, like, oh, that's what it means to have that kind of money. Because then the only people who can come after you are like the billionaires. Then they can come after him. But why would they? He's nobody to them. Yeah, he probably had $50-100 million, which is enough to, like, you know, he had a property right next to the casino, and the casino apparently offered him like $20 million for the property. He's like, fuck you, I don't want to sell. Obviously, he's got enough money. He's like, doesn't want a $20 million. If the property was a piece of shit, he just wanted to keep it. Like, the city wants it gone because it's an eyesore, and he's like, nope, I'm good. Like, that's what that means. That's what Naval kind of means. He's out of the city. They can't bully him. He's got too much money to be bullied.
Well, so imagine all the people who have money do that.
Yeah.
But we don't have the balls to do that.
Yeah.
We don't.
Because you fear loss, right? If you fear I'm going to lose my job, like, I've talked to several people, like, I'm going to agree with the narrative because I want to travel. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to do that, and I want to do that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But if you think like that, I'm talking to whoever thinks like that, don't expect to have a different type of life, because you are not there. We're not there yet. That's why when we talk about, I want to go back to normal. Yeah. I'm like, what is normal? Yeah. What is normal?
I mean, there's certain things I actually like. Like, I've been saying for years, I never understood why with the invention of computers, why so many jobs are still driving to and from work all the time. It's about control. And we're seeing, I was like, oh man, like, my wife started working from home and she's so much happier and more productive. And I'm just like, this is a good thing. And we're already seeing corporations be like, we want people back in the offices. And like, people are happier. It's better for the environment, less commuting. Like, I didn't understand. And like, everyone wants to go back to that. And I'm like, well, that's something positive that got out of this, is you can work from home. You can be with your family. You're more productive. You have more free time now because you're not wasting 2 hours commuting every day. If you're for the environment, you should be for working from home. Like,
that's what I said. Don't you think it's easy to see when somebody truly cares? Yeah. To me, it's very easy. Yeah. Like, I don't have to be, to me, when we live in a society where the system forces us to be working so many hours to barely have enough money to provide for a family and to see a vacation as the ultimate goal, that's slavery. Yeah. The things that we truly think that this is what we're here for. That's what I say. The evolution to get to that point where technology, we're way, way back. We have to still long time, but I'm optimistic. I think things have changed for sure. But
so you asked me a question, like, what do you think we need to see to change to make it happen? What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna put myself as an example. If I want to have a different type of life outside, if I want to have something that I dream about, I first have to change myself. It's just as a first step, basic. If I don't believe in what I can do, if I don't feel good with my life, if I feel like I know myself, what the fuck am I gonna do? Nothing. I'm gonna get a crappy experience. So not until we have that type of talks with ourselves, in the outside, that's secondary. Doesn't matter. So I think that this is what every single person has to face, no matter what. Once we go to the first stage, we can talk. But that's like, I see it like martial arts. If you want to learn how to fight, you first have to learn how to walk. You know, and
fundamentals.
No, walk. Which you walk and jog and jump.
Crawl, then walk.
Push. Yeah. So that's why, to me, what do we have to do? Get in touch to the human essence that comes with feelings, with thoughts, with honesty, with, you know, realizing what we're doing. When we have that conversation, we will realize that we're doing a lot of things that we don't have to do, or we are so programmed to be out in autopilot that we are just copying examples from our ancestors without even questioning if they work or not. Oh, my mom is like this, I should be doing the same. Oh, my dad is doing that job, I guess I should keep the same tradition. No,
the classic. I did this when I was a kid, so you must. It's like, okay, but do I?
And that's another one too. Anybody who is 60 years old and tells me, when I was your age, I'm like, wait.
The world is different.
It was very different. You would be working at, I don't know, Tim Hortons here.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And 50 years ago, you could work at Tim Hortons and you'd have a mortgage on a house, no problem. You know, I had that. It took me my parents were in their early 70s. It took me a long time to convince them. Like, I'm like, listen, I don't fit in with society. I don't. You can't force me. It's never going to happen. I'm going to get fired from most jobs regardless. Like, it just doesn't work. And like, you know, when I was a kid, I'm like, listen, when you were a kid, you could work any shitty job and buy a house within 3 years. Yes, okay. It's impossible now to do that.
Impossible. What do you have to do? Like,
and you know, I think it was the Tim Ferriss podcast. This woman was telling the story, and I tell my students now, and the moral is, before I tell the story, the moral is like, are you doing something this way, or do you think something just because that's what you've been told to do, or is it just because what you saw and you never put much thought in it? So the story goes like this. I think I've told it before, but it's a very simple way to make the point. His wife is cooking turkey dinner for Thanksgiving. We're on Thanksgiving weekend, right? And she cuts the end off the turkey and puts it in the oven, and the husband is like, what are you doing? Like, why would you put the turkey in with cutting it off? It ruins it. Like, that's what I was taught to do. That's how you do it. And he's like, no, it's not. It's like, why are you doing that? And it says, oh, my mother did it. I should go ask the mother. It's like, why did you cut the end of the turkey off to go into the oven? And she's like, well, my mother did it. So they go to the grandmother is still alive. Says, well, why'd you do that? Is there it doesn't make any sense, does it? Or is it just like, oh, there was a very good reason I did it. I had a really small oven and the turkeys wouldn't fit in, so I'd cut it off and put it in. And the daughter, the mother of the original person, just saw that and copied it. So, for example, with my wife, who's Chinese, we, often with mixed race couples, you have a lot of conflict. And the conflict, other than normal couple stuff, is coming from, we have to do it like this, we have to do it like that. And it's like, okay, but do we? So you grew up with certain ideologies of it must be done like this because in her culture they do it like this, and then we had many fights about it. I'm like, but we got to the point where it's like, okay, but what do we prefer? Like, what do we like doing? And some things we like from her culture, some things we like from what I'm upbringing, and a lot of people don't want to have those conversations. They just want to stick my way. Yeah. But I'm like, okay, but we want to live our life our way. Are we doing these things because we're just taught it, or are we doing it because it's the best way, or what we think? Right? And
don't you think what you're saying is excellent? But don't you think what you're saying is still another form of evolution? Yeah. That's why, to me, identity is not established. It's not set in stone. Identity is always changing based on what you're learning. Identity is not just my name, but my beliefs. And if you believe something, a new evidence is proven or presented to you, it's up to you if you keep choosing the same old belief or you have a new belief. So when you acquire a new belief, your identity changes. That's what you're saying. That's the main reason why I don't really like to talk about I am Venezuelan. I love my country because I truly love humanity. I don't care if you are from Israel, Canada, or China, it's another human being. If we want to separate us, we separate people who care about people and who not care about people. So that's, to me, the same philosophy from if you're in a relationship. This is my way. This is my way. Okay, what can we do to meet each other halfway? Find a common ground so we can make this work. The problem is when one side thinks that the other side is this is my side. No, I'm like, okay,
you're wrong.
I'm out.
I often say that, people call me stubborn my whole life, but it's not necessarily that. It's make your argument. And if you don't come with more facts or knowledge than I have, then you haven't convinced me. And so they're like, you're stubborn. I'm like, but you haven't told me anything I didn't already know. You haven't come in any with new perspective. You're just regurgitating something. I'm not sure you really understand your point enough to convince me, because I have been convinced. It's a lot harder to convince me than a lot of other people. But I'm like, just go do your research. Like, come to me with some facts. I don't want to do that. You're stubborn. Or I had one person say, I can never win an argument with you. I'm like, but why? You don't want to. Well, I don't have that in me. I'm like, well, then how are you going to convince me to do anything? Like, well, you're just a dick. It's like, no.
Yeah, that's, I think a lot of people believe that good conversations are only joyful and pretty. They're not.
Yeah.
Great conversations come with controversy, with issues being brought to the table, being heated, but then you find the common ground. I think that we have no idea how to be we forgot how to be social. Like, when you have a table or you're in a party, we barely see people disagreeing with each other and still be able to find a common ground to have fun. As soon as you see somebody disagreeing with the other, you feel I'm out. Go to the bathroom. Bye. Yeah. That's the type of thing that we don't know how to. We forget the controversy or disagreement is part of the evolution. It's like with scientists that try to do an experiment and they mess it up. What do? They reevaluate everything. They find a different approach and they find something. The same thing with everything. The thing is that we are so programmed that we never want to be wrong. We think that being wrong is lack of, I don't know, it's not being strong, it's being vulnerable. But when in fact vulnerability is a true way to grow. Yeah, we have to admit when we're wrong. We have to admit when we don't know something so we can learn new things. Most people don't want to go through that. No, most people can never say to somebody, I'm sorry, I didn't know. No way. That's the ego is so high that I'd rather die than tell that guy that was wrong.
But you should have known.
No,
that's where they come at.
That's another part of it.
How could I? I was saying, because I've been teaching long enough. Like I've learned so much through teaching. It's like, no, they shouldn't have known. If nobody's taught them, they don't know. So this is where you have to be careful of indoctrination versus education. One is open-ended and one is no. There's only one answer, and. I often say to my wife, like, I don't know. And she's like, that's not an excuse. I'm like, nobody taught me in my life. No, she's very smart and very quick at learning. She's like, well, I just do it. I'm like, but I'm not you. Like, if you don't want to teach me how to do this thing, I'm not going to learn because I'm not that motivated. So if you want to teach me, I'll do it. If you don't want to teach me, I'm not. And I probably have some undiagnosed whatever. It doesn't stop me from doing anything, but I, forget, I focus. I need to... Yeah, I'm a weird mix of whatever the fuck. I can't do the same thing too often to build the skill set, but it's weird. So I'll learn eventually. I have a quick learning curve for some things and a slow learning curve.
We
for
all are
things,
different. That's another one too. Just because we don't learn the same thing as fast as other people doesn't mean that.
Of course not.
No, it's a different way because that's another part. Everybody thinks there is one way, one approach. It's
for
not.
me, it works like that.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not that way. Yeah, it's not that way.
Like I have students, like I approach self-defense a lot more intellectual and a lot more conceptual and theory. I do discussions and all that, and a lot of people don't like it because I just want to learn to punch people in the face. I'm like, that's not the whole thing. And I see students, some of them have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about. And for those students, I'm like, that's fine. The ideas and concepts will seep into their brain if they just stay consistent. They'll be doing it whether they realize it or not. Other students, they just boom right away. Some students need to, a little bit of time to get it in their head. As long as they keep coming, they'll get it one way or the other. So I really don't like it when educators, the science of education, it's like, there's no such thing as learning style. I'm like, go fuck yourself. You're a bunch of liars. That's bullshit. You're lying to yourself. You're doing that because the administrators want it easy for them to manage an education system. Fuck you.
That to me, the educational system is the biggest form to traumatize a child right away.
Explain that.
Oh my God. I'm going to speak from my own experience. I think that how many of us went to school and we truly felt less than other people just because of we were not in the ranking top 10, who knows, or some kids cannot memorize things in a specific way. I think that creates a illusion standard, an illusion of what standard should be like or what normal should be like, and that's when, as kids, we get programmed to look to our size and start comparing, like, oh, the person. So we start losing who we are to be like the person on the right, the person on the left, and whoever gets less judged by society, we want to be like them.
Well, I do want to get into that, but before I get into that, how was going to school in Venezuela? Because I'm interested when everyone's like, oh, I went to school, but we don't often think, well, they might have had a different thing.
In what sense? Because there are many layers for school. Like overall, overall was as good as I possibly can be.
Like compared to here, if you've seen it.
Oh, here is like
great. Right?
Butterflies, the chocolates. No. The Venezuela is very different. But I made it, and it's just different just because there is a lot of bullying situations that you really have to fight. Yeah. You really have to. If you want to you have to fight. Yeah. There is no other way.
The teachers aren't going to intervene.
No. It's like,
a kid just got stabbed. No problem.
Oh, sorry. It's like you have, especially when a lot of times, the guys act like nothing is happening and then they wait for you outside. So you still have to fight no matter what. Yeah. That aspect, and I would say the competition aspect. And that's why I play sports. Playing sports was my sanity to stay away from a lot of things that would not serve me, and that's why I guess among all that crap, people saw me as the sport guy, and that's why I guess I made it. Yeah.
You were the cool kid.
Not even the cool kid, but not saying like the guy who's not dangerous.
Yeah. So the grades thing, like I think we need standardized grades. However, if it becomes about the system needing it as a mechanism of their measurement, it's bad. So what I mean by that is, again, if I believe that some people are just useless at things and other people are great at things, that gives us a general idea of, I do think we need a little bit of that comparison of, either I really suck at this or I need to work harder. However, here's the caveat. It shouldn't be the total... Like that outcome shouldn't be dictating how the rest of your life goes. It's just telling you, I suck at this subject, and if I want to know more, I got to study more.
I see this like when you go to an airport. Yeah. Where am I going? Oh, you're just going to go to Italy. Yeah. You're going to... Where are you going? It's something like that. Just because I'm evaluating you, and just because you didn't get a good grade in math... Yeah. That shouldn't be a topic of conversation to be, I need to call your parents. You didn't get a good grade for math. No. Yeah. He's not good at math. Okay, let's put him to the letters, into the humanity aspect or musician. There is always something. But when you call the parents of a child because he didn't get good grades or because the guys is a lot of times too, the education, a lot of times no. All the time, the educational system never sees the individual problems that the kid is going through. How many times do you see kids going through problems at home and nobody knows? Yeah. And then the kid's always quiet, being bullied, and then the kids fail a test. What's going to happen to a child? Yeah. Traumatized for life.
And a lot of those kids, their parents are the problem.
All the time. But nobody's helping those kids to get that release. It's to be heard, to be educated properly. They don't know. So kids having issues at home, they go to school, they fail a test, they get even worse. The teachers call their parents to tell them that the kid's not doing well. That's right away the biggest trauma.
It's like, well, what do you want me to do about it? You're the educator.
And then when they grow, they're like, I wonder why I don't believe in myself. I wonder why I'm so scared of the world, because it's a trauma. It's such a program.
Yeah, we're planning, depending on how things go, but I think we'll make it happen, to homeschool, because I'm a capable teacher. She'll teach the math. I'm not doing that one. But if you look at the kids who do well, regardless, it's not even necessarily an intelligence thing. It's that their parents were there saying, let's make sure you get educated. Go here. Sometimes it's about money. Sometimes it's not about money. And a story about, there was one of the first black congressmen or senators, I can never remember, was telling a story about his grandfather. He was raised by his grandparents. His grandfather used to read a newspaper every morning all the time. And he saw that. And he got into reading and all this stuff. His grandfather was illiterate. He was not reading the newspaper. But his grandfather was setting a behavior for him that you get up and read. Not reading, couldn't read.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. People always think it's about money, and it's like, no. You need role models in your life. I was listening to Rex Murphy. He's a Canadian broadcaster, a little bit more conservative. They're going after him now because he's shitting on CBC now and all that. He used to be on CBC.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, his parents, he's like Nova Scotia from way back when. He's like 70, 80 now. And like, my parents weren't the most educated people, but they were always like, you need to read, you need to do that. So if you have parents, regardless of their education, encouraging
to do the right
thing,
yeah, for sure.
Regardless of money, you can do it. Obviously, if you have a kid getting paid to go to the best schools with the best educators, they'll have a slightly better outcome. But that's the thing about the school system. I told once to someone that I know who is an educator that said, I'm not putting my kids in school. It's no offense to you. Most teachers suck. Most of them suck. Like, I have a vivid memory of an English teacher in grade 11. I'm saying, she gave us some menial task in English, and I'm like, okay, what does this have to do with English? It's like, okay, let me rephrase the question. What is the educational value of the thing we're doing right now? And her response was, shut up and do your work. The answer was, this is a time waster. They don't have anything better to do. Here's a stupid project, nothing to do with the subject matter, completely irrelevant. And most of these people, like, I have no problem with teachers getting paid a lot more. But hey, guess what? The shitty ones need to go. Period.
Yeah.
But the unions won't allow that. And the teachers don't want to admit some of them are shitty. But I like my job. You're working on the next generation. Get the fuck out of the way.
I see this like let's say I want to be a pilot. I want to fly an airplane. Yeah. Can I? You have to pass a lot of tests, right? You have to do, like, you have to show me that I'm not going to crash.
Yeah.
Why don't we apply the same philosophy to these two teachers? Especially when you ask most people what an educated person is, they tell you, oh, that person graduated from that school. Oh, that person had this job.
Then why do they not know anything afterwards?
Exactly. I'm like, that. It's just to get a job.
Yeah.
Just say, I'm preparing you for a career. Yes. But don't say that you're educated. Educated is about all being well-rounded. Cooking, doing your own laundry, self-evaluation, being human. That's just overall. But we never talk about it.
Yeah.
So how can we expect to me, how sad it is, how many amazing, intelligent people have all these degrees, PhDs, but they have no idea how to have a relationship, or they have no idea how to take care of their health.
Yeah.
How can you explain that?
Hilariously, a lot of these longevity people who are like mad scientists in the lab don't even exercise, and they're like, I'm supposed to do this, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's pretty hilarious. Like David Sinclair, who's one of these like top-rated longevity scientists, like works at I forgot Harvard or one of those. He's exactly like, he knows exactly how to make people live longer, but his health is horrible. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Because they're not well balanced.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, how can I educate people when I don't educate myself?
Yeah.
That's what I said from the beginning. How can we change this? Looking at the mirror and seeing that we have a lot of work to do with ourselves. Yeah. Because what I do with myself, it will affect you and everybody else. But everybody's always looking for the outside to change. Yeah. But we don't want to change.
Well, that's interesting. Like, I'm always having these debates of how do we apply it. Like, someone like, Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership, the book. You're familiar with that book? His whole thing, he's a Navy SEAL. He's like, extreme ownership, you need to take ownership, take personal responsibility. And the way he sold it in the first book, even he admits later, like, oh, I think I screwed this up, in that, well, people started doing this. I'm responsible for everything, and I'm not letting you do it. And it's like, no, to me, I was listening to this person the other day, and it's something I've been saying for a while, and for them to say it, it's like, oh, great. So I've had friendships that end. And now I don't have the best temperament. I haven't been working on it. I get very hot-headed, inflammatory, and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, if I'm arguing with you, I'm annoyed for a reason. Now, you can agree. I can agree with you that the way I've handled it and the things I've said aren't the best. But often, what I've done in a few relationships that ended, it was like they were good friends, but I'm like, okay, but do you think that you did anything that upset me, or I'm just being the crazy person here. And they're always like, no, it's your fault. Don't blame me. And I'm like, ownership is admitting my part. And this is not Jocko's thing. This was this other negotiation expert that was saying, ownership is my part in this was this. Your ownership is what was your part in this. And when you try to do this with people, it's like, okay, I understand I said something because I was mad and I shouldn't have said that. But do you understand why I was mad? Don't blame me. You need to take personal responsibility, like Jocko says. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? You did something that was not okay. You know, the degree of which is debatable. But it's like, I asked other people. When you always ask third parties, of course, whether you explain it reasonably. But there were other people that sort of saw what happened. They're like, yeah, you overreacted, but they still shouldn't have done that thing. And when I'm like, do you want to talk about it? They're like, are you going to apologize? I'm like, hold on a second. I have already done that. Do you want to acknowledge why I was mad? No, I'm not. You can't say that thing. I'm like, what the fuck? I guess the friendship's over.
Yeah, well, what you're saying, I think that probably the easiest way to manipulation.
Yeah.
You know, I think that I am all about really what you're saying, like taking responsibility, but there is always a last drop of taking responsibility, because that will fall into giving away my rights or my privileges. I'm saying because of, yes, I think that it's very helpful when we take responsibility for absolutely everything happens in our life, either you like it or not, just because of you have a peace of mind. You either get a lesson, you get an experience, you learn something to do it differently. That's fine. Now, if I'm having an issue with you and I take my part, I apologize for what I did, and you are still focusing on me and me and me and me, my responsibility next layer will be accepting that you are never going to see what I'm trying to show you. So that right away, I lose all desire.
Which is gaslighting, which is what the governments are doing.
That's what I said. The highest form of manipulation is exactly what you're doing. So now, once when I take responsibility and you keep bombarding me or feeling like a victim, that's when why am I gonna value his opinion any longer? I don't disrespect you. I don't see any less, but we're not talking. I'm not in tune anymore, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's part of life.
Well, and that's the thing is for me, like, because I'm hot-headed and stuff. I've had many friendships end, but it's like I understand. I acknowledge I am difficult for people, but when I have friendships with people, and you know I get triggered like that easily, and you don't want to, you don't even sit there and say, hey, why did you get that mad? Like, I've had so many friends that they never do that. They're just, oh, he's just hot-headed. He's just this. It's like, but why are you upset? They don't want to do that because they don't care. And what I learned early on, at least when I was younger, most of them weren't my friends. They just had me around for entertainment or whatever. And, you know, when you're an outsider as an individual because you don't fit in with that middle sort of bell curve, it's hard to, it's like, okay, I don't think like you guys. I need to understand. I need to have these conversations with you to understand why you think what I'm doing is so bad. Or what? But if you're not willing, and I've sort of realized this, they don't care enough about you. Because if they do, they will have those conversations.
That's questions.
You know, when I teach the firearm safety course and I get to the point about suicide and firearms, I often, and it's uncomfortable for people, I'm like, if you're a good friend and you know they have firearms and they're having a tough time mentally, you're gonna maybe have to have that conversation of, hey, I have my firearms license, can I hold on to your guns for a while? And I'm like, you may lose them as a friend, but that's the responsible thing to do. And a lot of people, you know, like, you have to look for the signs. They say, look for the signs. And I'm like, people are like, how do you know? And I'm like, if you don't know something's wrong, you're not that close with that person. Because with people you're very close with, you know when something is going off. Yeah. Like, their tone changes, the way they're talking changes. If you can't pick that up, you're not that close friends with it. And you have to realize, often evaluating, are these people in my lives actually close friends, or am I just quote close with them, or do we really understand each other? Like, I didn't grow up with a lot of close friends, and I don't think it's actually as common as like TV would make it seem, because often what happens is you have friends, you get married, boom, that's your core group now. Right? Yeah, I from my experience, I think that the word friend can be very different. You know, it depends how you see, how we interpret our experiences. Some people come to our life very fast, shortly, like right away. To slap you, get out.
Some people come just for a bit, it's temporary, seasonal. And some people really come and stay with you. And sometimes they leave and come back. I think people are always playing roles to help us to evolve, to learn. Many times we experience people who are very challenging. They're going to challenge the crap out of you to see who you are, to see how much you stand for yourself, or how much you question your reality. I just believe my definition of a true is one thing to know people, another thing to have a friend. Friend to me are not all. Most people I can say that he treats me nice, he helps me, he understands. That's all part of friendship. But I think that being a friend is also telling you what you are not seeing, or telling you the things that you don't want to hear that nobody's telling you, or stopping you from doing crap that you don't need to do. That to me is a friend too.
Yeah, telling you the hard stuff.
Yeah, right away. And to me, I'm the type of guy, I appreciate way more the hard. I don't care about the smile or you buy me a gift. That's nice. But I care more when you truly call me out for something that I can do better, or to truly help me to heal. That I appreciate that 10 times more. So again, it depends on people. But I think that once when we deliver our truth or speak our feelings, it's not really my responsibility how they interpret it. If they interpret it in a specific way, that's their thing. It's not, as long as I speak my truth, why am I going to be concerned? Especially knowing that the people who are meant to be with you, they always come back, or they always show up based on who we are. Sometimes we want to have around certain people, but we're not ready for them. And that's why I focus on myself. But I think that taking responsibility is a big part of the journey, but there's also a drawing line where we cannot take responsibility for people's decisions or lifestyles. And that's what I always say. I don't care what you do, but if you interfere in my step on my toes and you take my rights away, I'm gonna fire back.
Yeah, right
away.
To me, that's like a true, that's why I'm so disappointed with the martial arts community. Is, to me, the martial artists are the ones you should fire.
I was so funny because when all of this happening, I was thinking what if we all martial artists get together? Yeah. And we're like, no.
I was calling for it, and people are like, no, you're too confrontational. No.
I'm like,
Jesus Christ, man. We don't need to be violent, but as an industry, and as someone said to me the other day, but John, if the restaurant industry couldn't even fight about it, I'm like, if the restaurant industry had some balls and said, fuck you, we're not doing this, you're going to close every single fucking restaurant?
They can't.
No, but people always what I think happened is the restaurant industry asked for the vaccine passport because they're like, we need to do so we don't go out of business again. It's like, hey, you can just say we're not closing, go fuck yourself. But
people are, the thing is that when you ask anybody, can we live without government? People have no idea what that would be like. It's like me telling you, no, impossible. That's like, can an animal live without a farm? Yeah. Of course they can. Yeah. But we don't see ourselves like that. Yeah. We are so dependent on a fucked up system that we truly can never see ourselves saying no. That's what I say. If I put 2 rotten plates of rotten food, which one are you going to choose? Yeah. Now people
are choose another one.
No, I'm like, I don't want to eat this crap. Yeah. So that's what we're experiencing right now. We're served.
But you're so ungrateful that I've given you this.
That's another part of manipulation. Yeah, how dare you to complain? I'm like, what? Yeah. So that's how the manipulation is. 2 rotten plates, and if you say no, I make you feel guilty why you're not choosing those plates. I'm like, that's why I'm like, if we don't have these conversations, they're so obvious to me. I'm sorry, we're not ready to have
people don't want to have those conversations.
But we're not ready then. Yeah. That's what we're talking about alien. I would love to talk about all of that, but we're not ready for that. We're not ready.
Well, you've said multiple times my truth. Now, that saying has popped up in the last few years, and it's always bothered me because I don't like it. To me, okay. But I'll tell you what, it's the to me, truth is objective.
Yes.
And the human experience is very subjective. So I reframe it now. I started saying, it's my perspective. Because when you say it's my perspective from my reality, we can come at it and we can meet in the middle. But when you start saying, and I know you're not doing this, but a lot of people using this word, when it's my truth.
Oh, okay. No.
This is the truth.
No, I mean my perspective. Because the
No,
thing,
I know. It's just English, you know.
it's a wording thing.
Hearing it pop up, and it's becoming the colloquial nomenclature of the words.
Okay, yeah.
And so there's the thing, words have power like that, and people are saying it's my truth, because when you start framing it, my truth, my truth, my truth, that's where you get left the two opposing sides, because it's the truth. It's like,
It's like this.
It's your lived experience, your perspective. It's not truth.
Exactly. That's why the truth, ultimate truth, is paradoxical.
Yeah.
It has many meanings. It's like, look at this table. From my perspective, I only see this and this.
Yeah.
From your perspective, something different. But what about the guy who is right here?
Yeah.
So it depends on how we're looking at it. I say my truth because I truly believe that what I fully embody as I believe is my reality.
Yeah.
So my truth, what I believe is that, my perspective is that, but yes, a lot of people mix their perspective with the actual ultimate truth. Nobody knows the actual ultimate truth. Nobody.
Yeah.
That's why all we can do is really heal, so we understand that there is way more perspectives out there.
Yeah.
The more that you learn, the more you realize that you don't know shit.
Yeah.
That's why it's a healing thing. It's an internal.
And it's fucked up, because the more you know, you probably know. But the thing, here's the thing, it's a weird conversation. And like for me, like I for whatever reason, I retain a lot of information, and I talk to people, especially about like the stuff that's going on now. It's like, are you aware of this? They're like, no. Are you aware of that? They're like, no. Are you aware of this? No. And I'm like, then how can you have an informed perspective? Because all of these things are affecting the things like that mask mandate thing here. Well, 5+. Well, why all of a sudden? Because the teachers union wants it, so that it's easier for them. Well, then people are like, why does that matter? I'm like, because I thought this was about health. Well, I don't care about that stuff. I'm like, but that means the kids don't need to wear it. And they're like, oh, but you're not an expert. I'm going to try. They default to that. And I'm like, okay, because you lack knowledge, you don't understand that there's more at play here than you think. But if you say that, they're like, you're looking down on me. I'm like, no, I want you to be informed. It's like, you think you know everything? I was like, no. Like, no.
and don't you know that that's a big one, that no matter when we try to say something, or truth or perspective, there's always somebody who either gets hurt, gets offended, and the whole conversation gets shut down.
Yeah.
To me, I'm sorry, if anybody gets offended about something, it's your own crap.
Yeah, how you interpret
it's your own crap. Now, if you see me screaming at you at the top of my lungs, if you see me intentionally trying to call you names, trying to attack you, sure, I could offend you, because it's, but if you see I'm just having a conversation and you're just getting offended, that to me is one of the biggest obstacles that we have in our society, because there is no possibility for debate, there is no possibility for hard conversations, to have that common ground, to have two parties debating, to find a solution. It doesn't happen. So we have to have at least that maturity to be able to control our emotions, and we don't. Yeah. As soon as I get offended, I'm out. I cannot handle it. I'm like, can you, if you need a few seconds to cool off, a few days, sure. Yeah. But come back. Yeah. Don't run away.
It's like on the climate change, YouTube and Google have officially said they will define we're not supporting, like anything that's questioning it. And I'm just like, I don't think anyone's trying to have an actual meaningful conversation about this topic, because, Greta Thunberg gets all this media attention, but the guy who's actually cleaning up the oceans is barely getting anything. And it's like, did you know the pollution in the ocean is something we can actually fix? It's money and time, but we can fix that. All of North America switching to green vehicles is still not going to fix the fact that China and India are polluting the air. Can we talk about that? No, that's a Republican talking point. It's like, okay, but it's a fact. It's actually a fact that we could shut down all factories in North America, all the cars. They're still doing what they're doing, and unless they go green, it still affects the globe, guys.
And adding to what you're saying, another obstacle that we have is that I listen to the experts. Yeah. I'm like, what is an expert? Who knows how somebody's an expert? Because I have a paper that says I'm an expert, because somebody, a friend, high profile person is saying that I'm the guy that you should go to, or because I perform. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The other thing is, are they actually an expert, or are they the PR person? Because what the actual experts are saying is that it's not radically different, but it's different than what the public ones are saying. And that doesn't match up, because a lot of the experts on the particular field are like,
I didn't say that. You took me out of context. You hear that a lot. Or a lot of the actual experts don't want to be in the front and center. And when you hear them in podcasts or things talk about stuff, you don't hear them anywhere else unless you search them out. Like I was watching an interview. I like the mask one because it's an easy one. Occupational hygienist. They're the people who do the air meeting reading. They actually teach doctors how to use masks and when the appropriate time to use them and all this. She's like, I got hired post 9/11. I've been hired as a consultant by the government consistently my entire life for the last 20 years. I'm one of the top experts on this stuff. COVID, nobody wants to talk to me because you know what my stance is? Don't wear the mask for this. It's kind of a waste of time. If people want to, there is, as I said, there's a certain level of efficacy in when they're appropriate, but she's like, you don't need to wear these things. The cloth mask, the medical masks outside of the hospital, they're basically useless. Don't bother. And that's the truth. I'm the person. I am the expert on this. This is what I've been doing. They're not listening to her. She's crazy. But for 20 years, she was totally fine. But now she's crazy. So it's a relative thing. First of all, is the person making the statements actually an expert specifically in what they're talking about? That's a little bit more expertise. And then the thing is, what's their track record? Because a lot of experts have been wrong their whole fucking lives. So the argument that people make is, you're telling me somebody that has been dedicating their entire life to something, you're no better than them. It's like, look at the history of experts, like the what I said about the plate tectonics, or Egyptologists that were fucking full of shit for fucking 20, 30, 40 years. It's like, are they actually telling you the truth, or they just learned something 40 years ago, refused to change or update, and have been selling the same shit for 40 years?
Yeah, to me, I see a basic, because sometimes it becomes very difficult to know what's good, what is not. Basic. When something works, you see it.
Yeah.
It's just tangible. It's just, to me, when science, our world, the health area truly works, you see people healthy. You don't see 13-year-old allergic to mushrooms. You don't find that type of things.
Yeah.
So that's why, to me, I ask people, what is normal? Is normal being poor? Is normal being sick? Is normal being lied to every month, every week? Is normal living in fear all the time? It seems it's like when you are in a friendship or relationship, you're getting beat up all the time, but you think that's what it is. It looks to me like that, because of, it's like you. How do you know somebody is legit as a fighter? Yeah. Because he's telling you, or because you saw a commercial about that person? You just see the way it perform.
Cauliflower ear.
No, always. So, or even to, I dedicated my whole life. So just because you dedicate your whole life doesn't mean that you have it.
Yeah.
There are people who dedicate their whole life to religion. Doesn't mean they're always right.
And then they raped a bunch of little boys.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right there. So that to me is, it should be a topic of conversation. Now, if somebody gets offended by this, okay.
Yeah. They don't want to have the conversation.
They don't want to have conversation. That's what, to me, healing means being able to talk about anything. People who cannot talk about certain things, I'm sorry, you're not ready. You're not ready for that. I'm sorry.
I'm too triggered. It's like, well, if you want to get better, you're going to have to talk about it. I can't. I'm triggered. I'm like,
well, you're not ready. Don't expect a different type of life. Don't expect people to trust you. Don't expect, you're not ready for that.
I did psychology, and I left. I got my associates. I could have got my degree. I stopped. I think half of them are lunatics now. Some of the shit they're pushing, I'm like, it's not logical.
It's not.
And, so, for example, if I look in an fMRI brain scan of someone with PTSD, you can show they have PTSD. It actually looks different than another human brain. So you can say that, yes, PTSD is a thing. How many people who say they have PTSD, if I put them in that brain scan, have PTSD? Or are they just playing the role because what everyone's telling people now is trauma, trauma, trauma? Because lots of people, when the experts on PTSD look into it, they're like, actually, only like 11 or 12 or 13% of people who've been exposed to trauma and say it was traumatic actually will have the brain scan of PTSD, which means that tons of people are they're not fine, but they're fine. Because someone with real PTSD is like their behavior is off.
The thing is that trauma to me means a lot of things. Trauma is not just going to war and get traumatized. No, trauma could be you never hearing from your parents, I love you. You know, it could be it's so many layers of trauma.
Correct, but here's what I'm getting at. If I keep telling you you're talk about this stuff, but if I keep telling you you're traumatized, so what I think, well, if someone's had a horrible child life, abused, whatever, and they're working a job and they're doing really well, and then we start getting these people coming and saying, hey, I heard you had a tough childhood, you're traumatized, and then all of a sudden their performance goes down. Was that actually helpful?
No, at all. That's another form of gaslighting too, because if it's one thing when I say, hey, you are traumatized, you need to evaluate the way you make decisions, is one thing. Another one, when I keep reinforcing the idea or the belief that there is something wrong with you, quote unquote. No, that's crap.
Which is what I see happening.
No, but that's what you think it's happening with to me, psychiatric and psychology. I'm like, well, that's such a scam. I'm like, oh, you have depression? Here, take this pill.
That part is definitely a problem.
I'm like, oh my God.
Some people, well, because I was on SSRI, so for some people, what I see it as is it should be the last resort, and for some people, like, they need something because they're not. Yeah, it's that bell curve again. But most people, through effort and work, they can probably be okay without anything.
No, I was going to say, I think that to me, it's something that never happens with people who have been severely traumatized. It's a opportunity where they can be heard, they can speak, they can release. Everybody's so scared to open what they have actually gone through or their truth, that they feel like I need to take something, you know. And I think that
it's a societal. Well, have you ever heard? Do you know who Yeonmi Park is? Well, you should listen to her. Her Jordan Peterson interview. So she's a North Korea defector, and she tells what, like, growing up, and it's fucked.
I can imagine.
Like they didn't know what love is as a concept, because it's not there. So there's like 6 basic human emotions that are universal. Love is not always there, and so by our standards, she went through an insanely traumatizing. By her standards, she's like, that was life. Sure, it was traumatic, but now I think she's married, she has kids. She went to South Korea. Her story is like horrific. She got out, and she actually said she was treated poorly in South Korea. They were looking down on them. They still do. They're very they don't like North Koreans in South Korea. And then she ended up in the States, and she's going to university. I think, I don't know, Cornell or one of these New York universities. And the story she likes to tell is she was holding the door open for a guy, and the girl is like, don't you do that. You don't give him the power. That is disrespectful to women. She's like, I'm just being nice. And she's like, the person's like lecturing her, like, you don't understand what oppression is. And she's like, and she's like, she knew something was wrong. She's like, I don't even want to, like, I thought like going to university and all this and being educated was the thing. And now I'm like, I don't think anyone should go to these places anymore. Like, you're telling me that I'm oppressive or doing something oppressive. I'm from North Korea.
No, that's exactly what that's what I say. I understand that part, but that's why it's so important to when I say heal, is change, overcome, transcend everything that has created pain in us in our past, because we make decisions based on our past. You choose your friends based on what they look like, the good friends they have treated you in the past. You choose your wife based on what you think should be. It's always, we choose things based on what we think is the best. But if we don't pay attention what settled that belief when we were little, we will always be thinking and making decisions based on that type of perspective. That's why, to me, truth is always changing, because the more that we heal that truth, it changes. We add new things, we remove things.
Well, that's what growth is, right?
Exactly. But it's all part of the perspective. That's why I say identity, perspective is never set. I can never say, I'm Joel, this is who I am. I could be tomorrow something completely different.
And I was talking about a long time, I would consider them a friend. I've known them a long time, and we were talking about another group of people that we know, and I had a falling out with them a long time ago, and she was telling me she recently had a falling out with them, and she's not friends with them anymore. And she was just telling me, like, they're the same fucking people all the time, shitting, because she was telling me they were shitting on shitting about me. I don't even see these people anymore. She was telling me that, they're trash talking you because of something you said on Facebook. I'm like, first of all, they even follow me on Facebook anymore? Like, okay. But they were like, how dare he say that? Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, they're the same shitty human beings. Not all of them, but one person she was talking about in particular, the same shitty human being that they've always been. I'm like, you know what? It wasn't specific to me. It's just his attitude overall. And he's like, I can't deal with this person. Like, you're shitting on other people, but you're the same fucking person from the time I met you to now. I don't need you in my life anymore.
I think that's a tough one, just because of many times we care about people, we truly do, but sometimes people don't care about themselves as much as we do about them, and we can do nothing about it. And that's another part that we'll experience. I think we'll have experienced friendships where people stay the same, and when we show them that we're not the same, they cannot handle that. They expect us to act exactly the same way, and to me that's a big problem. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with you being with who you want to be. If you talk behind my back, that's your journey. But if you interfere in my reality, I'll
You're
do
making it difficult for me now.
No, right away. I'm sorry. Like, you can do your own thing. You can talk all you want, But if you come to me, if you're interfering in my bubble, that's a problem. So it's that's why I say it's a journey. The only thing I can wish people is healing, because when they heal, they become who they're supposed to be. It's not about, I'm gonna get that job, he's gonna change. No. People, it's an internal thing. But
it's a classic, like the girl, he'll change for me.
When?
If he wants to, sure. If he doesn't, he's not gonna
change. Yeah.
Like, for my wife, like, I put effort into it to work together, and it's like, it sounds shitty, but the other women in my life, I'm like, didn't want to do that for you, sorry.
No, it's another thing to the change. It cannot be forced. It cannot be speed up. You change when you're ready for it. When we're ready to do something different. We don't change just because of, I want to change. No, we change. We truly feel inside that we have reached that bottom. Them like, hey, how am I gonna lie to myself tomorrow again to say why I didn't do that? So I think that's what I wish to everybody. Like, I really wish everybody reaches that bottom line in their life where they really see, okay, I can do this differently, or I deserve. That's another one too. That a lot of people don't change because we believe that we don't deserve certain things, and I think that's part of healing too.
And it's interesting, like, a lot of research is suggesting, like, you need adversity so that it forces the change.
Course.
And if you don't have adversity,
how are you going to change?
You go stagnant and die, basically.
That's two huge illusions in our society. We should never get sick, and life should be easy. That's the biggest gaslighter of all.
Yeah.
You get sick, your body gets stronger, you're fine. You go through a heartbroken relationship, you learn the lesson, you know that you cannot do certain things again, you become a better person. It's just,
for the most part. And that's why I say that some of us aren't going to make it, man. And to me, like, resisting that, like the zero COVID thing in, like, some places, like, it's insane to me, because it's like, listen, man, there's a certain point of diminishing returns where no matter what you do, some people are going to die. Yeah. And if we always take the attitude of nobody, you're going to destroy the entire thing, because some of us have such an immense fear of death still, even though it's such a normal part of life, that you're going to destroy the whole thing because you can't accept that some of us just aren't going to make it.
But that's exactly the thing, that we are so we're living like it's like a whole bunch of fishes living in a tank, thinking that the tank is life when we have never explored the ocean. And that's why I told you at the beginning, like I said, this is just my philosophy. I don't believe in just one lifetime. I believe that we have many lifetimes, and we have a recall of those memories. That's why some of us can do things faster, or it becomes easy because it's just intuitive. It's not something you have to think about. And not until we have that as part of us, we're always gonna live our life based on fear, based on, there might be no tomorrow. This is my only life. Obviously, you want to take care of yourself. You want to be like that YOLO type of mindset. But when we know that there is more out there, we don't take life as serious, and we become more human. And that's what I think that we're not having as much.
So I wonder, transitioning here a little bit, that drive for change and desire, is that one of the reasons that because we were talking about you made the shift to acting a little while ago. It's not going as you like, as with a lot of it's fairly normal in the industry, various reasons, but the acting as a tool, whether you're successful or not, is that like a driving factor to change, or how does that play in?
There is the personal, there's the career. The personal, because of I'm slowly putting my perspective out there from different ways, and I feel like that's a part of my healing. The career aspect, because I believe with movies you can truly help or destroy the minds of people based on predictive programming. And I think if we do...
You mean by the actor or the public?
By the content of what you're projecting. If you have meaningful wording, acting, content that truly teaches people, you can truly transform a society. And I think they're just being misused. Yeah. Martial arts is not just to fight. Yeah. Movies is not just to get distracted. With movies you can learn and get...
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I can read at a fairly high level. I don't enjoy sitting there with the book. I love watching movies, but what I get out of it is narrative. I get out of it storytelling. I get out of it that. So I've learned a lot of things from movies that were well produced. I really against you must read to get... If you want to be a writer, you should probably read. If you want to write, you should probably write. But if you want to learn the concept, it can come from many forms. Yeah. And movies, I've gotten that out of movies a lot as well.
No, for sure. I just think that there is a lot of brilliant minds that have never had the opportunity to hear their perspective, and a lot of them are in books, So what if we make those books, make movies from those books?
Except when they make the movie and they butcher it for the sake of what's going to make more money rather than good storytelling. For example, Dune. I haven't seen the new Dune movie, but every single movie they've made has been a complete flop, because how do you take that masterpiece and put it into a movie? And they've made some changes in the current movie. I'm like, everyone's a little pissed off because it's gone woke politics. Like, they changed some of the characters around that it doesn't make sense based on the original. Yeah. So it's like, well, at least they did this. At least they've broken the movie up properly rather than trying to shove it into one movie. But we'll see. Like, did you just make another fucking movie because you're all unwilling to do it properly? Which is like, you got to do a Lord of the Rings style with several 4-hour unpolitical movies that are as the damn book was. Minor artistic changes are fine, but I haven't seen it because they've been holding back the release. They want it to be theatrical release, so they're waiting for the COVID things.
It's sad just because of I've been fascinated for a movie for a long time. I just never explored as much as I'm doing it now, and it's just really it's sad. Even you see too that there is so much creativity out there to be used, but they're not being used. And I'm sorry, but not to be judgmental, but there is a lot of movies who are very repetitive. It's different character, different place, but the same type of content. You already know how the movie is gonna end. You already know you can predict behaviors.
It makes the most money.
Yeah, but I don't even believe in that. I don't. If that was true, they would not be rushing with so many of the same. You will take your time. Because somebody who is making money, you're not rushing. Why are you rushing?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense. I just think it's just what the system want to continue having.
I don't even know if it's that. It's this is what we know people like, but do they?
But who are those experts that decide?
Joe Rogan talks about this, about the producers, the executives that just come walking in, and there's some dickhead son who got in. It's like the metrics say that this is what, and then his point was like, fuck that. If you have any integrity, you should be like, I'm not working on this bullshit. But then everyone's terrified of getting blacklisted, and then they stay in that thing. And then you have Quentin Tarantino who's like, fuck you. Yeah. He was telling the story about someone told him, you cannot have John Travolta. You cannot have John in Pulp Fiction. Like, they just did not want him. The studios did not. And he said, you can have everyone but him. And he's like, that solidified it even more. I wanted And because he came with the fuck you attitude and just to how he handled it, he makes, look at what he does. Yeah. Like, don't tell me how to make my fucking movies.
I respect that. I respect that. That's why, I believe in the bravery of those type of people. There are people out there, but I don't think they have reached to that stage of like, fuck this. Yeah. But I believe it's coming sooner or later. Yeah.
I mean, he was telling that was one of his first movies. He had the attitude.
Yeah.
Just came in like, don't tell me how to.
You
make
just know,
movies.
it's just sad because I believe there is a lot of talent out there who are not given the opportunity because they don't agree with the political things.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, it happens. I mean, it's sad. The Me Too movement, like how many people had to sleep with people to get it, and then the entire Me Too movement collapsed recently because some of the heads of the Me Too movement basically were protecting Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced New York governor who had sexual assault allegations. So several of the board members who were high-level actresses of the Me Too movement were telling one of the victims of Andrew Cuomo to shut the fuck up. And when the public found out, wait, you're censoring someone coming out against someone who's clearly not as bad as Harvey Weinstein, but clearly a creepy guy with too much power. You're censoring him, and the whole Me Too movement collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it suited them, they're like, I'm on the Me Too movement. Half of them slept their way to the top, and they didn't care. They didn't care to do that. They were totally fine with it. The main one is Rosa McGowan, who is still like, fuck you. Like, she's still pushing it. Because she had an issue with this Harvey. She's one of the Harvey Weinstein victims, but she also talks about like it all collapsed because they're all full of shit. Like all these actresses that were on the Me Too board of directors were all full of shit because when it came to the politics again, they defaulted to, don't throw Andrew Cuomo under the bus. He's a Democrat. He's a rising star Democrat. You can't do that. And then the truth came out. Half of them don't give a shit one way or the other.
Yeah, man. That's a sad truth that it's out there. That's why I'm like, that's the downside of the film. But again, it's an individual choice. I personally, I say straight up, I don't have to be sleeping with anybody. I don't have to be, please, fuck that. If you like me, you like me. If not, it's.
Have you ever thought about because of the internet now, just producing your own content and putting it out there?
Slowly, but it's not one man's job.
No,
for sure.
You're telling me I would love to do so much more, but without having the means to pay people to help you, like they have lives too. Like you can only get so much. Like my vision of what I want to do is a lot more than like my emotional capacity and energy. I have limited, unfortunately. Like I burn out too quickly. So I do it took me a long time mentally just to be like, okay, I'm okay. Like if I can't get what I've told people I'm going to do, it's okay because I'm just one guy. It's fine. But like, hey guys, if you want to help me, you can help me. Like,
I think that's gonna come. To be honest, I think that there are so many amazing people out there who are in the same spot as us, and life is gonna force new communities to merge. Just because of, as I said before, humanity has always found a way to transcend or find the solutions for any
survive or die.
No, literally, we have always done it. So it's just gonna be another one. So I'm like, okay, I just hope and I pray that a lot of people in this industry they see their value. There's a lot of people playing with who we are. It's a gaslighting manipulation of you need me. I'm like, no, I don't fucking need you. There is a lot of people out there who are in the same spot who truly want to help. It's just that we have to have these talks. And I think that not until we realize this, we want to continue being manipulated and being used until the end of times.
We know a good example, sort of talking about myself, because I have a story about this. Like the way I live my life, people look down on it.
That's
because, and it's like, so I come from a Jewish family. They're not the most Jewish of Jewish families, but like, my mother is always like, oh, my friends' kids are like doctors and lawyers and this, and they're living on their own and they're married and they have this. I'm like, mother, I'll kill myself living like that. Like, you shouldn't care so much what they think about the way I'm choosing to live. Like, I'm doing it because I realized if I do that, I will kill myself. So I prefer to live like this, even though by society's standards, now, with my wife, this is pretty nice. I was saying that this is probably the nicest place I've ever lived in. Not that I lived anywhere like bad. Like, I always had good homes, but like just style-wise. And it's like, like, that's what I think people mean by don't judge people. Because it's like, if the person is doing what they need to do to sort of live optimally for them so they can be happy, then it's okay. But if they're living a life that's like extremely detrimental to other people. It's very different, but a lot of people, it's blurred lines, because if you don't have the house with the white picket fence, you know, the traditional 50, you know, that you're doing it wrong. It's like, but are you? And everyone's still trying to do it that way. And that's the thing about the internet and creativity, especially for creators. It's said big fuck you to the big movie studios. No, I can do my own stuff now.
But that's what I say. Not until this happens, how can creativity be triggered?
Yeah, because you realize I don't need to do that.
I don't
anymore.
need you. I'm like, you need the creativity. Yeah. So I might not have the funds, but you will run out of creativity. You have to do a Spider-Man 10. Yeah. So like, you know.
Yeah, keep doing with these things.
Keep doing the same one, the same case, the same, you know. So it's, you know, I'm optimistic just because of I see it. It's not tangible yet, but I see it coming. You know, it's just it's gonna take a while.
Of course, it was like, you know, this podcast. I stopped doing it for a few years, and I was talking to someone the other day. Like, "Yo, almost 100 episodes." I'm like, "Yeah." I stopped doing it, and you know, early on, it's like I had no idea. I didn't have like a driving, motivating. It was just like, oh, I can do it. I can get famous in this. And then during COVID, one, I'm sitting around. I'm like, but two, I'm like, people need to hear these conversations. Yeah. And whether you like me or not, I like having these conversations. So let's do it. And I just started doing it again.
Especially too, you don't know who you are impacting. Yeah. Like, even if it's just one single person, one sentence that you say, to me, that's valuable. Yeah. You know, it's incredible how so many of us have been forced to do things that we never thought before just because of COVID. Yeah. You know, that's why I see this part of the bigger picture.
Yeah. Like not that I've doing much. I created a website. I started going more digital. Again, content takes fucking forever, especially if you're by yourself. Then you have to do editing, build a website, and do all that shit, and film. It's like, I don't have time for this shit. And then I have to take a break from stuff, and then then I move and have to do renos. And you're just saying, no, okay, I'll get it done when I get it done. And then so you have your own sanity. And if I'm like, hey, if more of you want to support it, then I can get it done faster. Because then I switch my motivations to, hey, if this is bringing me income, I can focus on it more. If it's not, I'll do when I want to do it. And that's the thing about going the creative route, is like, I still need some income. Of course. So how do I do that? Have you been doing anything separate during this time for income? Or?
No, I mean, always teaching people, you know, that's mainly what I've been doing, and doing side jobs.
Teaching martial arts, rather.
Yeah, teaching martial arts. Yeah. And because, you know, with COVID, I think the martial arts community fitness has been impacted big time.
Huge.
Everybody's scared. You're vaccinated, I'm not. So it's
the conspiracy theory would be, we don't want people to be healthy, so therefore we need to close this industry.
Oh my God.
That was the most illogical thing to me. The industry that can make people healthier to fight this off, particularly if they're younger. Why are we shutting them down? Like, at least they didn't tell people they couldn't go out for walks in the park here like they did lots of places. I was like, thank God for that.
That was crazy.
Like, we were in Surrey, and Surrey didn't close the parks. They just had people walking around, stay 2 meters apart. So it was like, oh, okay, at least we had that. There's some sanity. Because the places that they took that away, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
No, yeah. Especially, remember the first 6 months of COVID? Yeah. I had people at the grocery store when I don't know, I wasn't wearing a mask. Coming to me, like, almost trying to, like, threaten to fight. I'm like, like, it was insane to see how much we were willing to, you know, the fear. But all I can say is just, I don't think this whole situation is gonna end up tomorrow. I think
it's not.
We have a while to go. I think more events are gonna keep taking place. More crap needs to come out until, unfortunately, luckily, all the evidence is on the table. Even that 10% you talk about, they will be like, okay. I feel like that's gonna get to that, but I think that humanity has to be like this.
Yeah, be really pushed.
Push, because we don't change by choice. We change by.
Well, that's the question. How much do the proverbial they need to push for the average person to be like, you know what, we're done here?
I think that's why it's an individual journey. Yeah. Because for us, could have been the first month. But some people might take 10 years, 20 years, might never come.
And sometimes it's too late.
But that's their journey. Yeah. They're not meant to experience what's coming next. Yeah. You know, that's how I see it. It's not a victim. It's nothing but it's better than anybody. Yeah. but it's an individual journey. You choose to. It's a choice.
Yeah.
Everything's a choice.
And for me, like, I never thought I'd be seriously contemplating, like, I want to move to a different country.
Where?
And this year is the year I'm like, ooh, I don't like the way this country is going. Like, maybe I need to think about it. Like, how do you feel if you came from Venezuela to here for freedom and like, shit, I got to move again? Because I know a lot of people have talked to you.
I cannot get out.
Yeah.
I cannot get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You're
no matter what, I'm
right?
stuck here.
Yeah.
But again, I'm strongly believe in universal creation. I don't believe in accidents at all. I really don't. And that gives me with hope. Focusing on myself, changing my world inside, so I can contribute to the world. So that's all I can really do for now, and I hope people are focusing on themselves, so that way we add up to contributing to create a new community. But I want to be optimistic, but when I want to be optimistic, I cannot help but think about years later on, because even when we change as people, we don't know how much we change until years later that you have, because it's one thing when you recognize what we're doing, when we adopt different type of behaviors, and another one when we get tested, that we truly see who we are. Anybody can say you have changed, but not until you get tested on the outside, we don't know, and people don't get that opportunity until way later. So if people are not even having this conversation, people are not even thinking about this. Now, so you see what I mean? That's why I see this is going to be a very long process.
Yeah.
But,
it'll be interesting to see what happens.
It's a lot of things. I believe a lot of things are going to... A lot of minds are going to be blown away. I see it with, a bit of goosebumps in a good way. But I think it's coming. I think within the next 5 years, it's going to be very interesting.
So here's the question that people ask: how could you possibly have a child at this time? A lot of people are just rejecting the idea of having kids, and both me and you agree it's
their reality.
Yeah,
it's their reality. I just had a kid, and I know it's not going to be easy. I know it's going to be challenges, but if I believe there are ways. Yeah. In life, there is always a way to see the lack or the opportunities.
It's like, for me, I'm like, I'll tell my wife, like, because we both want kids, I'm like, okay, let's say a zombie apocalypse breaks out tomorrow. Okay, you don't think people weren't living with kids on their back for thousands of years? You don't think like, we were talking about, because we go hunting or camping, and then you can't take a baby out there. I'm like, why not? Because people did it for tens of thousands of years. Obviously, you got to be, careful. Yeah. I was listening to this famous hunter. He was talking about how he thinks it's like crazy. He lives in Montana. He's lived in rural America most of his life, but he's an internationally famous hunter now. He has a show on Netflix. Steve Rinella, and he was talking about, like, he thinks it's nuts that a parent will leave their child unattended on the subway in New York. But then again, he takes his kids out hunting at a young age, and the city people think he's nuts for doing that. And it's like, it's actually probably safer to take them out in the woods than on New York subway right now. So it's like, if you teach them at a young age, like when I teach the firearm stuff, I'm like, you can teach a 5-year-old how to shoot a gun. You have to do it appropriately, and you have to be right there, and you're not going to give them a 50 caliber.
Like, here, a minigun.
But a lot of people see those videos of a parent, you literally sit behind the kid, you hold the gun, you have them, you show them how to look, you have them pull the trigger, you're still holding it. And there was a video going around of that exact situation a little while back, and you see some of the comments, and some people are like, that is horrible parenting. They need to take that child away. How dare they? And I'm like, that's amazing parenting. They're teaching them safely how to do this, use this tool. It's a skill that you may need. Who knows?
Man, I see everything is... it's like a fork, A fork is such a... I can stab you. Yeah. But I also can feed myself. Yeah. It's always how we use things. That's why I don't really like when people label things as good or bad. It all depends how you use it. What are you using it for? It's like, money's evil. No, evil is what you're doing with it.
Evil is evil.
Yeah, evil, exactly. Evil is evil. It's not like, this is evil. Oh, that's bad. I'm like, can we find a way to use it properly? It's like fire. If you touch it, you're gonna burn it yourself. But with that can cook too. So it's that's why I don't really like to label things as bad, but how you're using it or which approach you are using,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. How you use it. It's like the Google's original motto is "Don't be evil." They've since changed it, unfortunately. But it was like it's like be good. It's like, well, what's good?
Well, that's another. I'm not really into that one. That's a trap, I believe.
Which one?
From my perspective, I believe that be good is a trap.
Yeah.
Just because of we put aside reality or the truth just to be good. That's crap. I think the good is not always possible based on the circumstances, but sometimes we have to take action. Sometimes we have to be neutral. Not bad. There no need to be destroy anybody or attack anybody or put anybody down. But there must be a way to cut the cords. There must be a way to stop what's happening. And that doesn't require to be good.
Yeah.
Some people might interpret that this guy is so evil. How dare you to do that? I'm like, I'm defending my rights. Yeah. This is not a privilege.
Well, see, that's the thing is I think they changed the motto from "Don't be evil" to "Be good" because it is, like you say, it's a trap.
Some manipulation.
And I think they did it because Google bought Boston Dynamics and was building cybernetic robots for military contracts. And because of the ethos of the company, even as messed up as Google is "Don't be evil" was the ethos, and they almost rioted, like metaphorically, like said, no, we are not going to be in this. Like a large percentage of the company was like, if you continue with Boston Dynamic, we are not going to be part of this company. It got so bad they had to sell it, so they could not be involved in these military contracts anymore. And sometime after that, they changed it, which means they want to restructure the company ethos and mentality now to be good to the trap, so that they're not going to get that kind of thing anymore. Where they say, hey, I thought we were not being evil. Why are we building War Machine robots? Literally building Terminator or building to that point, Skynet. And the company revolted on the executives. And it's not pushed in the media very much because it was in Google. They're not going to, it's established fact. You have to really dig now because they've buried it. But that happened a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
The company revolted because they thought the company was doing something evil. And within a year or two, they changed the company motto after that happened.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, it's such a way. That's why you have to be careful when we say, I want to be good, because that's such a trap. I want to be real. I want to be me, sure. Because sometimes, things have to get ugly before they get better. Same thing in some friendship. How dare you to do that to me? You are such a bad friend. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm telling you exactly what I think. How dare you to leave me? I'm like, you're messed up in the head. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm like,
I had that when I was younger. A friend he was a troubled person, and I was looking for being with the cool kids, and he wasn't even that. It's just he was around cool kids, and I figured out at a certain I was like with him all the time for like a year or two, and then I just sort of clicked. He's very good. He's a very good pathological liar, and I started catching him. Like good enough that I didn't catch him earlier, and I've caught pathological liars before in my youth before that. And I am like, you know what? If you lie to me one more time, it's done. And he did, so I said, "That's it, we're done." And it got some violence was involved as a result of they could not handle the fact I told them to fuck off, right? And it got really the police had to get involved and stuff, and it was just like, listen, man, I don't want to be with you. And that's why, like I was saying, some of these stories about when I'm talking about friendships as an adult, it's like, listen, I understand you don't like how I reacted, but what did you do? You really, as an adult and a healthy human being, have to realize, listen, man, if you don't like me, that's fine. We don't need to be friends. It's okay. But I just want you to be honest about it. And I don't want you to gaslight me about it.
Something I've learned, man, is not everybody's ready for certain things. And even if people know internally what has happened, they are not ready to open up about those things. And I think that's part of the journey. And that's what I said before, that once you see that you cannot get that acknowledgement from them, what are you going to do?
Sometimes it won't. Like, I'm not going to get too detailed, but let's say a mutual acquaintance of ours fucked me over badly. And they'll never apologize. They know what they did. And them and the people around them treated me like I was, again, the bad guy. It's like, no. I was right the whole time, you motherfuckers. Like, I'm still here. What do you guys do?
No, like I say, I how can I say? I want to be neutral as much as I can.
That's why I don't want to say more than that.
No, neutral because of, remember, I'm nobody to be pointing fingers or saying how things should have been happening or whatever. What is the best or wrong? But I believe in the journey of everybody. As long as we communicate what we're supposed to, try to do things from the heart. Even if when you do things, certain people interpret as if you mean bad or you were, sooner or later, the truth always comes out. Always comes out. So people can lie all they want, but when you lie that much, at some point you
crash and burn.
No, big time. So I'm like, okay, it's you. That's what I say, cause and effect. You always create what you put out there. So don't expect things to be different. But again, I think it's very good to always wish people good, no matter what. Because
I struggle with that one, to be honest.
But don't do it for them. Do it for you.
Yeah,
it's more because of it. Truly, it puts you in a different state. It feels like when you do that, it comes back to you in some way or form. And that's, I believe in energy, and you attract the type of people who are similar to you in some way or form. Not all the time. Not all the time, but I believe if I want different type of people in my life who do that for me, I have to do it myself first. So it's those type of teachers come to us to really teach us patience, compassion, understanding. But it's tough, especially sometimes when we're being mistreated, accused of things that we never say, never did, or they did it themselves, but they're, but it's not my journey. It's not my karma. That's a way to protect ourselves. Wish them well. Do your part and let the universe do the rest.
The karma concept, it's like I often tell people, like, you can't sound too woo-woo about stuff. But then I forgot, I think it was with my wife, we were talking about karma, and we realized it's physics, right? Energy given, energy taken. Energy is not created or destroyed. It's literally that.
It might take a week, a month, but it always comes back. Or many times people say, what, karma? That doesn't exist. I know many people who are evil and they do so well in life. They might make money, quote unquote. They might have certain things, but you don't know their private life. You don't know their health. There is always something around, because people who truly live from the heart, they don't think of those type of things. It's not in their dictionary. So that's why we can always make an opinion about somebody based on how they live their life, how we think they look like, because we don't know how karma looks like. I think how many times you have seen people saying, like, I can't believe that guy he got that job, he got married, he did that, wow, he's such a piece of crap. How can you don't know what's behind, So, or many times you see the guy who is, quote unquote, living from the heart, and he does not having a good life. Why? How come he's doing so good? There are many layers to it, know. So that's why.
Is it surface or is it deep?
Exactly. So that's why there's so many layers. We never know the ultimate truth of people's life. Only them know. That's why all we can do is just wish them well, heal our wounds, and if that's a friendship that doesn't serve us, wish them well. Thank you very much. See you in the next lifetime. If I have to. If I have to. I'm sure they come back.
And then I'll decide how to use that fork. Should I help you feed you, or should I stab you with it? Right.
Yeah, but it's it's life, man. I think that we're always gonna experience people that sometimes they're no matter what we do, they won't like us, they won't accept us, they're gonna misunderstand us, and that's part of the journey. It's part of the journey.
That's one of the hard things to realize. Like, I was telling my students the other day, I'm like, guys, you gotta understand, not everyone's gonna like you. You have to be okay with it, and you can't make their lives worse for it. It's just the way it is. It's
like that. No, it's tough. It's tough because of that. To me, a lot of people have the misconception of being alone. When you think about being alone, I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to be by myself." I'm like, no. To me, being alone is not being able to express what matters to me. You can be in a room full of people, but if you cannot allow to speak what you care about, trust me, you're gonna feel alone. Or you can be, by yourself, fully by yourself, and feel so fucking fulfilled.
It reminds. I think it was a Spanish movie. I can't remember. It was about this prison, or I can't remember. So this guy was in prison, in like the worst prison, like way back in the early in 1920s or 30s or whatever, and it's like some Spanish prison like off the coast of, maybe it was Venezuela, I can't remember.
Guantanamo?
No. It's like a long time ago, and they're like, if you fuck around at this prison, we'll send you to the worst prison. And the worst prison is an island where that's how they deal with the prisoners, is they make it so miserable and isolated, people just jump off the cliff and kill themselves. But he ended up in the worst prison after escaping so many times, this unescapable prison. And he's like, if you do it once, blah, 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 do it twice, solitary confinement. And it's just it's based on a true story. The guy, I think, ended up in France. So maybe it was a French penal colony, something. Mm-hmm. And they put him in the last solitary confinement for like 7 years. They did not break him because in his mind, he wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. And he was like the only person that most people, they will open the cell and they're dead. Mm-hmm. And no, he just, in his head, I'm not alone. I found a way. He ended up back in France. I think he ended up getting pardoned. I think he might still be alive. It's like, I wish I knew the name of the movie. It was like a crazy movie. And it's like, that's really what it is.
Yeah, that to me has been a personal experience, just because of I left home long time ago, and just traveling and having to adapt to different type of people. Yeah, you truly have to create your own family. You get used to people coming and going, so that you have to really find a way to not depend on people coming and going. That it allows me to be completely okay with being alone. We're social creatures. We need people. But I think that everybody should be able to understand and know what's like to be alone. If we don't appreciate our own company, how are you gonna enjoy fully somebody's? Because otherwise it becomes codependent. It's one thing when I want to be with you because I like your company, another one when I want to be with you because I'm so scared of not having somebody to talk to. It's different approaches, and I feel like a lot of us are still into that type of mindset.
That's like the ultimate paradox of the human condition, is we are ingrained genetically to be social creatures.
It's in us. Yet it's in us.
We need to learn to be alone at the same time to be happy, healthy, and stable.
That's why I would not be surprised in the near future we don't have access to technology. So that way it forces us to have conversations.
Come on, giant solar flare.
It's coming.
So I think, because we've come up on almost 3 hours, I think we've fleshed. Yeah, it's 3 hours.
Wow.
We didn't even realize that we've almost fleshed that ideas out. I think pretty well. Anyway, I mean, you're on Instagram, Facebook, because if you want people to reach out to you and explore, how would you like people to find you?
You can find me on my Instagram, Joel G MMA, or you can go to my website, alchemymma369.com, or you can send me an email, joelgmma@gmail.com.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming and being a guest and fleshing out these human ideas.
Ooh, that was awesome. Thank you very much.
You're listening to The Warrior's Day. Brought to you by Urban Tactics Krav Maga, turning lambs into lions.